Welcome everybody to my channel, The Real Super Sam. This is one of the biggest complete history of videos and I hope you enjoy. As you know, this video will go through the supervillain Dr. Octopus's entire history. Being one of Spider-Man's greatest enemies, he's definitely had hundreds of appearances. Otto Octavius is a genius in radioactivity, needing to use his mechanical arms for his work. Usually in his mythos, an accidental explosion fuses the metal arms to him, and the experience drives him a little crazy. If you didn't know, Dr. Octopus is who I consider to be Spider-Man's greatest enemy, and his first live-action appearance in Spider-Man 2 is my favorite movie. I think Dr. Octopus has always been well written and seen in the world of media, like comics and animation. He's barely been in small roles where he's just an Easter egg or a very small cameo like others. This guy was the starter of the Sinister Six. He's fought heroes like Captain America, Daredevil, and has popped up in tens of different universes. He's been codenamed the Master Planner. One time he had henchmen, and multiple times he's actually put the world in danger, and has been the Spider-Man villain who's appeared in almost all of Spidey media, definitely the most out of any other villain besides the Green Goblin. So in this video, I will also be talking about his time as the Superior Spider-Man, and the other Octopus characters as well, though not all of those characters' appearances, just enough to understand them. They also call themselves Dr. Octopus, so I feel they should be in this video some way or another. And now it is time. Let's get into the complete history of Dr. Octopus. Doc Ock first appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 3, July 1963. His story opens up at an atomic research center, where we see him putting on a harness with four metal arms that stretch and each have a hand-like end to grab and hold stuff for his nuclear research. But an accident happens and Otto Octavius doesn't get clear in time, getting caught in the blast. When Otto awakens, he thinks that everyone is jealous of him and want to keep him for his work. His brain has been damaged by the radiation, obviously. Anyway, he takes over the hospital and has forced them to give him equipment for his experiments. Spider-Man arrives and fights Octavius, but is losing, having to deal with four strong metal arms at the same time. As you can see here, this is the very funny moment where Doc accidentally calls Spider-Man Superman. The Doctor easily flips Spider-Man around and even B-slaps him. Spider-Man is helpless against Otto, so he's just thrown out a window. Later, after defeating the hero, nothing can stop him now, and he takes over the atomic power plant. He's gonna destroy the atomic plant and rebuild it himself. Spider-Man interferes in Otto's life again and fights him using his brain now, and he has a chemical that fuses two of his arms together. Ock is tricked into bringing Spider-Man close to him, and then he just gets decked in the face, knocking him out. As you can see, most powerful enemy, really, Otto is just a normal man physically. It was his metal arms and brain that made him such a tough rogue. Doc Ock returned later in The Amazing Spider-Man issues 11 and 12. It was the second time a supervillain ever came back for Spidey in his first two-part adventure. This happened April and May 1964. Despite Spider-Man's best efforts, Dr. Octopus is being released from prison today. Doc Ock attempted to raise funds by springing gangster Blackie Gaxton from a Philadelphia prison, assisted by his lawyer Bennett Brandt. During the event, Spider-Man stops Gaxton and fights Dr. Octopus, his undisputed greatest enemy at the time. Again, the boat they're on crashes into a wooden pillar and Doc Ock escapes. Issue 12 opens with Dr. Octopus committing a crime spree. No one non-superpowered can stop him, but he can never truly be safe with Spider-Man still around, so he heads back to New York. When he's there, he breaks into the Daily Bugle and kidnaps Betty Brant to bring the Amazing Spider-Man to him. It works, and Dr. Octopus easily bests the webhead in combat. Well, sort of. He unmasks Spider-Man in front of everyone and realizes it's Peter Parker from the Bugle. We know Peter was just sick, and that's why he lost to Doc Ock. But Ock doesn't think that Peter Parker really is Spider-Man, so he just leaves Peter with everyone and leaves. Later, every paper is laughing at the guy because of his mistake, saying he was fooled by a teenager, so he causes chaos by releasing all of the big zoo animals. With Spider-Man out again, they fight across the rooftops, and Doc Ock is a lot smarter when fighting here, not having Spidey's old tricks work before and hunting Spider-Man down like a madman. Their battle ends in an art building where a fire starts and a statue lands on Octopus. He can't move it, and Spider-Man can't get near enough to help. Of course, the firefighters save Otto and the cops book him. The supervillain Spider-Man group, led by Dr. Octopus, happened in the Amazing Spider-Man Annual 1, October 1964. Scientists have discovered a way to remove Dr. Octopus's arms, so he's able to go to a normal part of the prison. This is where he uses his mental control over his arms to break out of their containment and go to him, breaking out of jail for the first time. Dr. Octopus figured that he alone couldn't defeat Spider-Man, so he creates a group of other Spider-Man haters. Together they are the Sinister Six, Dr. Octopus as their leader, Kraven the Hunter, Electro, Sandman, Vulture, and Mysterio as his teammates. They decide to tackle Spider-Man one at a time, wearing him down on his giant scavenger hunt across Manhattan to find where May Parker and Betty Brant are being kept, with Doc Ock monitoring every move. Dr. Octopus here treats Aunt May, or May Parker, so kindly, though, that she remained blissfully unaware that she had been kidnapped by the charming villain. When Spidey arrives there, Doc Ock fools Spider-Man by not having his mental arms on him, but controlling them mentally, but he still gets whacked. He uses a trapdoor and an air burst to trap Spider-Man underwater in a giant fish tank. Spider-Man sprays his webs everywhere in the fishbowl, carefully to entangle Dr. Octopus underwater, and when the fight is out of the rope, he gets brought out and put into jail with the rest of his companions. Otto had a cameo appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man 18. News has gotten out on how the Green Goblin made Spider-Man run away from a fight. Dr. Octopus, in jail, hears this, saying it should have been him. Next, he appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man issues 31 and 32. This is the story where he's first called the codename Master Planner. He has a bunch of goons now in an underwater base. His plan was to develop a radiation ray to rule the world. Spider-Man hunts his henchmen down, not knowing Doc Ock is back, and the two fight a bit. During the fight, the place breaks apart, apparently killing Doc Ock and burying Spider-Man under a ton of rubble. One of the most important moments in Spider-Man history happened on September 9th, 1967. Spider-Man had his first TV show episode, and the first villain of the show was Dr. Octopus, in the episode titled The Power of Dr. Octopus. In the episode, Dr. Octopus is hiding out in a giant cave, and he gets discovered by Spider-Man. His plan is to blow up part of New York. Spider-Man manages to break out of his cage and capture Dr. Octopus after a little fight. Next for the Good Doctor was across 4 issues of The Amazing Spider-Man, issues 53 to 56. The event starts with Dr. Octopus sneaking into a new weapons demonstration and attempting to steal it. The cops deploy tear gas, but Ock moves his tentacles back and forth so much they act as a propeller to push it away. Spider-Man shows up and manages to blind Doc Ock with his webbing, causing a retreat, but making sure to plant a spider tracer on him. If you are wondering, Dr. Octopus survived the flood in the last story by using his arms to lift him above the water long enough to grab an oxygen tank. Well, Otto found that spider tracer that was placed on him earlier in the day and planted it for an explosive trap for the webhead. It didn't work though. And when Peter Parker returns home in the next issue, he returns to find Aunt May and Dr. Octopus sitting together having tea at her house. With Dr. Octopus acting like Norman Osborn from Spider-Man 2002 and basically saying, "I'm something of a scientist myself," Peter tries to expose him. It doesn't work, and Ock threatens him if he calls the cops. As Spider-Man, he tries to get Ock to leave the house to fight him, but Doc Ock calls his goons in to overwhelm Spider-Man. After he deals with the goons, Spider-Man tackles on Octopus in the house, but Aunt May walks in and faints, sending Peter on a warpath against Ock. Thanks to his spy, Dr. Octopus manages to grab the nullifier. He tries to break into Stark Industries, but Spidey shows up, and in the fight, Dr. Octopus uses the nullifier on him. It causes Spider-Man to lose his memory and actually team up with Doc Ock, thanks to Ock's smart manipulation skills. Now they need to get a new isotope to fix the nullifier. He sends Spider-Man to steal Isotope 16, and when he comes back, Ock discovers Spider-Man left a map to their hideout at the crime scene, bringing the police to them, and the two figures fight. John Jameson manages to stop Dr. Octopus's tentacles by using the nullifier on him, and even though Spidey still has amnesia, he lets Doc Ock get put into custody because they had a big blowout battle. Next up was Spider-Man 1967 episode 17A, premiering December 30th, 1967, The Terrible Triumph of Dr. Octopus. Dr. Octopus steals Dr. Smartly's nullifier. He attempts to destroy Spider-Man with an exploding dummy of himself, but Spider-Man is warned by his spider sense. He tracks Dr. Octopus down and paralyzes him with the electricity long enough for the police to arrive. He was voiced by Tom Harvey in this episode. In the first episode, he had a different voice actor. It was done by Vernon Chapman there. He was in The Amazing Spider-Man issues 88 through 90. Ock's mechanical arms are being shown off while he's in prison miles and miles away, so Otto has to use the most mental power he's had to bring his arms back to him. Spider-Man tries to stop the arms, but the arms cause a building to start crumbling, and Spidey lets them go. Octopus then takes control of an aircraft bound for New York, which is carrying General Sue, a military leader who is going to the UN building in New York to sign paperwork. Octopus takes the plane hostage and demands a ransom of $10 million. Spider-Man saved everyone from Octopus, and the villain activates the plane's engines with one of his arms. When the plane moves down the runway out of control, Spider-Man flees the jet, and it soon crashes. In issue 89, the world thinks Doc Ock is dead, and he wants revenge. To get Spidey's attention and scare the city, he goes around destroying smokestacks, polluting New York. He fights Spider-Man in the middle of the one rampage and wins, throwing him off a roof. Spider-Man survives and comes back later, only to be betrayed by a spider tracer he placed on Ock earlier because, again, Dr. Octopus tricked Spider-Man with his own tracer. A fight on a rooftop happens, but this time Spider-Man has a chemical in his web shooters he squirts the metal arms with. That causes the metal arms to go crazy, attacking each other in Otto. With them out of control, they knock their master out and also a nearby chimney. Yep, this is the original Death of George Stacy storyline. Alright, his next appearances were in The Amazing Spider-Man issues 112 through 115. At the same time, this was Hammerhead's first appearance. There's a mobster war going on since the Kingpin's disappearance, and Dr. Octopus thinks it's his time to strike at this opportunity. Spider-Man is feeling weak right now, so he does what he can to escape. For Octo, he's treated his glasses with a chemical that makes it easy to take webbing off his eyes. After resting, Spider-Man is planning to stop Dr. Octopus today. In the story, Spidey gets a strength-enhancing harness and knocks Dr. Octopus out. Just then, though, Hammerhead shows up and knocks Spider-Man out with a grazed bullet. Ock wakes up and flees the scene. Hammerhead and Dr. Octopus are on two opposing sides of this gang war, and Doc Ock does what he can to cripple Hammerhead's operations. Later, with Spider-Man by his side, Hammerhead attacks Dr. Octopus at his Westchester County hideout. There's a fight between the two supervillains. Luckily, Ock's able to trip Hammerhead with his tentacles. Spider-Man searches for where Otto is and finds the guy and his Aunt May together. An amazing battle happens, but ends with Aunt May pointing a gun at Spider-Man, making him flee. Dr. Octopus, though, is knocked down and Hammerhead gets away. While being brought to prison, Doc Ock asks May Parker to stay and watch his house in Westchester for him while he's gone, and she accepts. This story was continued in The Amazing Spider-Man issues 130 and 131. Out of nowhere, Dr. Octopus has returned and is about to marry Aunt May. During the wedding, Hammerhead's goons bust in and a fight ensues. Ock grabs Aunt May and the two take a helicopter out of there. Hammerhead chases Octopus to a small Canadian island that May Parker has inherited, and that's why Otto was going to marry her, to inherit the nuclear testing island. Spider-Man has hitched a ride to the island as well and takes Aunt May from Dr. Octopus's clutches, saving her and getting her off the island. Dr. Octopus enters the main building and is mortified when he learns the facility's primary function is a nuclear breeder. When Hammerhead busts in, Octopus warns the guy that the slightest vibration can cause a violent explosion. Hammerhead doesn't need this warning and charges at Dr. Octopus. Octavius and the nuclear reactor explodes with these two inside. November 1974, Doc Ock was in Spidey Super Stories issue 2. In here, Dr. Octopus is stealing $1 million statue and frames Spider-Man for the robbery. Spider-Man chases Octopus and confronts him before he steps on a leaving ship. Doc Ock, while fighting, accidentally steps and stumbles into the river, and Spider-Man creates a web net and fishes him out. Here's in Spidey Super Stories 11. Octopus wants revenge on Spider-Man after issue 2, and the Daily Bugle sets up a wrestling match between the two figures. If Ock loses, he has to go straight. Stop committing crimes. He loses and then gets mad and chases Jameson out. In January 1976, Dr. Octopus was in Superman vs. The Amazing Spider-Man. The Spider-Man stuff starts with the webhead foiling an octopus robbery. Tonight, though, Ock has a new weapon, the flying octopus, and one of the robot's arms knocks Spidey out and Doc Ock escapes. Spider-Man stalks Ock's plan where he's in a blimp and then sends him to jail. Believe it or not, that is not the end of it, as he and Lex Luthor meet face to face in jail and Lex manages to break out with Doc Ock. Luthor reveals he wants to set off a chain reaction weather system as a way to extort $10 billion from the US government. Superman and Spider-Man get onto their satellite to stop them. Doc Ock gets pushed to the side by Luthor though. During the fight, Superman leaves to stop the tidal wave Luthor unleashed, and when Spider-Man tells Ock Lex's plan to destroy the world, Dr. Octopus destroys the control panel, and the two villains get beat up and are off to prison. Doc Ock's story continued across the Amazing Spider-Man issues 152, 154, 155, and 156. We need to look in these issues to get Otto's complete story. Seemingly randomly, issue 142 cuts to this homeless man who is reduced to digging through the trash for food, but randomly starts screaming and running away from some mysterious figure. This even happens when he tries to rob someone. He decides he needs help. This homeless man reveals himself to be Dr. Octopus back from his apparent death, and he goes to May Parker for help. He was then the Amazing Spider-Man issues 157 to 159. Otto explains how he survived the explosion from issue 131. He got into an escape pod and wrapped his metal arms around himself for safety. Just then, the ghost of Hammerhead comes in and threatens Doc Ock. Aunt May faints at the sight, and Ock takes Aunt May with him as he escapes the apartment. He takes a helicopter to Brooklyn Labs to create a machine that should get rid of Hammerhead's ghost forever. Spidey arrives and helps Ock put it together. However, Spider-Man notices Hammerhead seemingly wants the machine to work. He tries to stop Ock from turning the machine on, but can't. Octopus activates the control, hoping to be rid of his tormentor forever. However, something unexpected happens. Hammerhead is restored back to a physical body. This leads to a three-way fight, and it knocks them all out flat on the ground. When Doc wakes up, Hammerhead has taken Aunt May with him as he escapes. This makes Dr. Octopus call a truce and team up with Spider-Man to save her. In the end, Aunt May is safe, and Hammerhead escapes the ground battle in a helicopter, not letting Hammerhead escape him again. Doc Ock throws trash cans to take his chopper down into an explosion. He and Spider-Man part ways peacefully tonight. He returned to the series Spidey Super Stories in issues 20 and 21. In issue 20 has a one-page event as Octopus runs out of an art gallery and Human Torch makes him surrender. And then we see Octopus rob the box office in issue 21. A chase ensues and Spider-Man captures Ock in Jameson's house, making the editor take all the credit for Otto's arrest. He was in What If issue 8. We see a joke version of Dr. Octopus called Otto Doctorpus, the Cat of Nine Tails. He is in Spidey Super Stories 32. Doc Ock has framed Spider-Woman for a crime, and the two Spider heroes in Marvel combat him. Doc Ock is in a tennis match, and Spider-Man with Captain Britain beat him in the match. Then Spidey webs him up. And in July 1979, Octopus was in issue 41. Spider-Man and Nova stop Ock's plan where he works with someone to create an evil ray, but Spider-Man just throws a web net over him. He was in What If issue 19. To save Daredevil's life, Peter Parker Spider-Man uses his superpowers for good, stopping the Sinister Six. Dr. Octopus was then in a giant 2-annual story in The Amazing Spider-Man Annual 13 and Spectacular Spider-Man Annual Number 1 in December 1979. Common thug Jimbo Ryan is responsible for the death of a Secret Service agent called Kent Blake, and has stiffed Dr. Octopus on the delivery of special plans, sending Dr. Octopus on a hunt for him. Otto finally finds Ryan and kidnaps him. Ryan had the plans Ock wanted and gave them to a friend to keep safe, but Ock's tentacles reach across the skyline and grabs it, thanks to sensors now placed in his arms. Spider-Man shows up and Ock points out that Spider-Man is stronger than ever. Spidey spins Otto around and around until one of his tentacles snaps right off. Yep, this is the first time Dr. Octopus had one of his tentacles ripped off by Spider-Man. But Ryan tumbles off the edge of the building, and Spider-Man lets Ock get away to save him. The story continued in Spectacular Spider-Man Annual 1, where Otto is recuperating from his metal arm being ripped off. The doctors explain that Dr. Octopus's pain is mental, not physical, and Otto gets mad about that. Using his mental power, he gets his arm to wiggle back to him. He has it reattached and tricks Spider-Man using the Spider Tracer, again, for the third time, and holds Spider-Man in place and throws him off board his ship. Doc Ock then tries to hijack an atomic powered submarine. When Spider-Man rushes in, Their fight causes the submarine to start flooding and sinking. Spider-Man manages to slam Ock's arm into a wall, and this actually physically hurts Otto, and strangely he gives up fighting for a while and talks to his arm like it's a real thing. The end has another apparent death of Octopus, as his damaged tentacle gets stuck in the hatchway door and it drags him down underwater. And then there is Spidey Super Stories issue 44. Octopus attacks the Daily Bugle and Spider-Man with a new hero, Butterfly, helping stop Ock, and Jameson takes the victory photo, only giving Butterfly credit, not Spider-Man. Okay, he was then in Daredevil issue 165. There's an illegal adamantium transfer happening, and while Daredevil tries to stop it, Dr. Octopus appears and holds Dee Dee underwater and leaves, thinking he's drowned the hero. Since we were wondering, Doc Ock survived that last story thanks to his arms acting on his last thought to carry him to safety, even when Otto was unconscious. The villain later goes to Glenn Industries holding people hostage, vowing to make new tentacles out of adamantium. Daredevil busts in and fights him. Doing so, Ock hits some high voltage wiring, knocking Otto Octavius out. His arms are still active and carry him away. He appeared in Captain America issue 259. Dr. Octopus tries to steal Captain America's shield. He plans to analyze it to make his arms stronger, but Cap's too good and Otto loses. Otto breaks through the roof and escapes at the end. He was in What If issue 29. If you saw the title, yeah, the Avengers defeat Doc Ock. Next came the Amazing Spider-Man Annual 15. The Punisher is on the trail of this mystic and kills him to learn the secrets of his death touch. He goes to the morgue but gets captured by Dr. Octopus. Dr. Octopus has poison and threatens the mayor of New York that he will kill 8 million people unless his ransom demands are made, having to do with foreign powers, are met. The way Ock plans to do this is put the poison on the ink of the Daily Bugle that it uses for its papers. Spider-Man finds out Ock's whole plan and confronts him in the Daily Bugle. The hero gets Ock's tentacles stuck in the printing rollers and then knocks him out with one big punch. Otto Octavius was then in some more media for Spider-Man 1981 Episode 1, premiering September 12, 1981, voiced by Dan Jones. Dr. Octopus here commits various mysterious crimes, and this gets Spider-Man to track him down. Doc Ock has connected all of the stolen crystals he's taken from his, to his tentacles. The crystals, when they're fused onto his tentacles, has enhanced their powers. The ruby is used to power a laser at the end of one arm, the quartz is used as a sonic paralyzer at the end of another, and the diamonds are as invulnerable saw on his third arm. Yeah, he's upped his game today. Doc Ock captures Spider-Man and keeps them in prison, while he begins his plan to steal all the oil from the ships in the harbor. Spider-Man manages to escape from Ock's lair before drowning and sets out to stop him from stealing all of the oil in New York. Doc Ock is defeated when Spider-Man ties his tentacles together. He is then arrested. In July 1982, Otto showed up in Dazzler issue 17. Today starts with Dr. Octopus breaking out of an armored van. Dazzler and Angel knock Doc Ock off a building, and the police use knockout gas on him. Dr. Octopus was in the cartoon Hulk 1982, Episode 1, coming out September 18th, 1982. This was his third time being a TV show's premier villain. He was voiced by Michael Bell. A gamma base in New Mexico has lost communication thanks to a heat wave, and Dr. Octopus takes an opportunity to steal Priam-99. The Hulk sees this and fights the villain, tying his tentacles together to stop him. Dr. Octopus was next in the Spectacular Spider-Man issues 72 to 75. In the story, we meet Dr. Octopus's biggest fan, Ollie Osnick, and he's celebrating the escape of Dr. Octopus from prison, and his friends all laugh at him for it and they leave him. This kid has made some real working octopus arms. Sure, they're cheap and Spider-Man rips them out in a sec. But that night, Dr. Octopus finds them in the trash and wonders for a sec about what they're all about. In issue 73, he and the Owl and Octopus were secretly working together, but Ock betrays the Owl. The two escape and Spider-Man fights the two villains' minions. Owl manages to escape with one device for their plan, and Ock goes searching for the other. He breaks into the Kingpin's safe, takes the nuclear device activator, and leaves. While fighting the Owl again, the trigger breaks and Otto discovers it was a fake. Someone else stole the real one. And that someone was the Black Cat. He breaks into her apartment and takes the nuclear activator, and the Black Cat goes to the Owl's hideout where the nuclear bomb is, with Spider-Man of course. While they're all fighting, the Owl's henchman and Otto's henchman, Dr. Octopus and the Owl have a fight between each other, and Dr. Octopus wins, dropping the Owl from a height, leaving him for dead. When Oc's about to blow up the place, Spider-Man jumps in and pulls him back, stopping him, and completely rips all of his metal arms off. And then he was in Spectacular Spider-Man issues 76 through 79, continuing that story. We see Otto Octavius on an operating table getting his metal arms reattached and in incredible pain. Even though it was really just his mechanical arms that were damaged, he still feels it as if it was his real arms, basically. Later, Doc Ock busts into the Black Cat's hospital room and endangers her life, then leaves, doing all this to threaten Spider-Man. He comes back a day later, and it's the toughest battle between these two huge Marvel characters, fighting outside on the hospital building, inside the hallways and elevator, through the city streets, and into a train yard where an actual train runs into Dr. Octopus, or at least it would have if Octavius wasn't able to demolish it. They get into currently a construction building, and Spider-Man traps Oc's arms and is defeated, but he goes ballistic, not wanting to lose to the webhead ever again, and tears the metal frames down on top of him, and Spider-Man saves his life. He then webs up Dr. Octopus and chastises him, remarking that he'll never win. Never. He was in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, Season 3, Episode 6, premiering October 15th, 1983. This episode has people come from the future, and Dr. Octopus sees this happen and tries to steal the time-traveling ship. Of course, Spider-Man, Firestar, and Iceman tackle Dr. Octopus when he's trying to come back for more. And specifically to stop him, Firestar melts all of his tentacles together. Next came What If issue 46. His appearances in this issue is just like Amazing Spider-Man issue 11. Next, for Otto Octavius, was his appearances in every issue of the First Secret Wars, issues 1 through 12. He's here as one of the many villains brought to Battleworld by the Beyonder, and he has no standout moments, so let's get into June and July 1984. He was in Fantastic Four 267 and 268, in my opinion, the greatest Dr. Octopus story ever. Today, to save the life of Sue Storm and their unborn child, Mr. Fantastic asks Otto Octavius, Dr. Octopus, for help, as he's been in a mental facility for treatment, and when Reed explains the situation, Otto begs to help. While traveling to the hospital, Otto sees a picture of Spider-Man on a Bugle billboard, causing him to feel unwell. On the other side of town, Otto's tentacles have been activated and have escaped. The arms eventually get to Otto and attack Mr. Fantastic at the same time. Otto's criminal mind is completely restored. Dr. Octopus then tries to kill Reed Richards, but Reed fights back. Reed quickly comes up with a way to stop his foe. Stretching his hands, he plugs up the manual controls on Otto's harness, rendering the arms useless. With time running out, Reed makes one final appeal to Octavius to help him save Sue and their child. Reed finally convinces Otto to help. At the hospital, Johnny Storm delivers the bad news. Bruce Banner cannot help but mention that the only salvation for Sue's baby came from the villainous Dr. Octopus, whose insanity delayed Reed too long, resulting in the loss of his child. Hearing this, Dr. Octopus lashes out against his foes, prompting Banner to transform into the Hulk. The Hulk is about to battle Dr. Octopus when Reed steps in and handles the situation on his own. Richards calmly tells Octavius that he's going to return himself to custody voluntarily, otherwise he will not rest until he is brought back to justice. Seeing something in Richards' eyes causes Octavius to relent, and he agrees to the wishes of Mr. Fantastic. Satisfied with Otto's response, Reed leaves him in the care of Dr. Lansing. Marvel Fanfare issues 22 and 23 came next. In this story, Doc Ock escapes from Riker's Island, revealing he has another metal arm harness. Doc Ock and one set of armor tentacles is bad enough, but when he's got two sets and one of them is adamantium, well, to solve this problem, Iron Man takes the adamantium arms and uses the arms to defeat Dr. Octopus. He was in Web of Spider-Man issues 4 and 5. Well, after everything Ock's been through, the Octopus Wars, Secret Wars, it's driven him mad. He's still at the Brooklyn psychiatric facility. Dr. George Jefferson is in a session with Otto. He tries to get Otto to open up about his childhood, but Otto can't bring himself to talk about it at that moment. Jefferson understands, and he walks Octavius back into his room. He assures Otto that they will work to finish the work started by Mr. Fantastic. He promises that they will get over his fear of Spider-Man and make him a productive member of society again. Again, telepathically, his mechanical arms go to him subconsciously and take him out of the facility, and after remembering his battles with Spider-Man, Otto vows for revenge. Otto takes reporter Kate Cushing hostage for demands from the Bugle. When Spider-Man arrives, he talks and this causes Otto to freeze up, and Spider-Man gets him delivered to prison once again. He was in Secret Wars 2, issues 3 and 7. Again, he's here as just a background villain. Then there was the Spectacular Spider-Man issue 124 coming out March 1987. Dr. Octopus has been going around town the last week collecting specific parts to build a nuclear bomb. Spider-Man tries to stop him by stealing a component on a ship, but the hero is overconfident and Ock throws him around. The reason Octopus is creating the bomb is to expose himself to all the radiation and increase his power, all to kill the Spectacular Spider-Man. Spidey knocks Ock out and tries to deactivate the reactor. Though, the mechanical arms are still active, even with Ock unconscious, so Spider-Man wakes Otto up with a bucket of water. The reactor was damaged in the fight, and Otto is the only one to disarm the bomb. He does, then he lashes out, causing the sewer ceiling to collapse on him. Another version of the Rogue appeared in Peter Porker, The Spectacular Spider-Ham, issue 17. Dr. Octopussycat gets called up on stage and then gets punched out by symbiote Spider-Ham. He was next in The Amazing Spider-Man issues 296 and 297. Dr. Octopus is still having nightmares over his last encounter with Spider-Man. Even though he wants a normal life, a part of him still wants revenge. During the next session, Ock's arms mentally return to him unconsciously, and when everyone tries to stop this, Otto flips personality-wise and leaves with his arms. He comes back to the Institute, and Spider-Man's there waiting. Seeing Spider-Man face-to-face again causes Otto to freeze up and not move. But his metal arms still do as they attack Spider-Man, then leave with his master as being burned with hot steam. Dr. Octopus returns, stealing a bioweapon, and threatens to pour it over Manhattan. He's doing this because destroying the city will also mean destroying Spider-Man. At his setup in the World Trade Center, Spider-Man crashes in and turns Ock frozen again. The thing is, he can't call off the attack like this. To save the city, Spider-Man pretends to get defeated by Doc Ock, and this brings back Otto's confidence as he calls off the attack and leaves Spider-Man to, quote, deal with his humiliation. He was in Solo Avengers issue 17. In the story, the Sandman, who's reformed, and Hawkeye team up against Dr. Octopus. Doc Ock gets away with his prize in the end, though. He was in Marvel graphic novel issue 46. We see Dr. Octopus's origin again. He's a loner and keeps to himself. He always has been. We even get flashbacks to when he was the master planner. Today, though, Peter and Mary Jane have just gotten married, and then an Octobot crashes in through the kitchen window and attacks them. Spider-Man hunts down Otto, and today, Dr. Octopus has an underwater suit of armor. Spider-Man manages to get Ock's tentacles stuck in a boat propeller, and that stops Otto for today. Next up was Dr. Octopus's first video game appearance ever in the Spider-Man Game Boy game, coming out January 1990. It's in black and white, and Doc Ock is just the boss in here. July through September 1990, Dr. Octopus reunited the Sinister Six, this time made up of Electro, Sandman, Mysterio, Vulture, and the second Hobgoblin, and of course himself. This was across the Amazing Spider-Man issues 334 to 339. Dr. Octopus has a master plan that will make him ruler of the world, but he needs teammates for this to work, so he goes around and recruits the Sinister Six, replacing Kraven the Hunter with Hobgoblin, and having to blackmail Sandman to get him his help, by threatening to kill his family he boarded with when he was starting to reform. Dr. Octopus has apparently made poison and is going to put it in a new launch rocket to blanket the globe with it. He tries to kill Spider-Man, but the Sandman turns on Ock and attempts to fight him, but Doc Ock pulls out a gun, fires the Sandman with it, turning his body into glass. After the rocket is launched with Dr. Octopus's chemical, the rest of the Six don't know that the chemical will cause cocaine addicts to convulge when they take the drug. The only cure is the stolen Burundite. He explains that addicts will be willing to pay a fortune to continue their addictions, giving Octavius the funds he needs to take over the world on his own. So yeah, he basically betrayed the Sinister Six, and those 5 members tried to attack him, or I guess 4 because Sandman is glass. But the police come and they all leave their separate ways. Spider-Man confronts Dr. Octopus and warns him of the risk to the ozone layer he's caused. Dr. Octopus refuses to listen and attacks Spider-Man. The two struggle with one another until Dr. Octopus's arm strikes the fuel tank, causing an explosion. As the flame rushes towards the Burundite, as Spider-Man races to save it from destruction. Octopus sees Spider-Man go after the cure, and is convinced Spider-Man was telling the truth, and so he leaves him. In January 1991, Dr. Octopus was in the Sega CD game The Amazing Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin. For gameplay, it's 2D still, but in color, and the fight is a lot more interesting with dodging, web shooting, and punching. Doc Ock gets webbed down and tells Spider-Man that the Kingpin was telling the truth, and that to disarm this bomb takes 5 keys, and 2, one's in the sewers with the lizard, and 1 is in Central Park. Okay, then February to April 1991 came the Spectacular Spider-Man issues 173 to 175. On Christmas Eve, Dr. Octopus has emerged out of the river and enters a limo ready to pick him up. He's heading to Forest Hills, Queens to spend the holiday with May Parker, the one woman who knows him as the man he once was. Peter Parker sees Dr. Octopus outside his Aunt May's house and attacks him. Deanne has Ock leave peacefully, not wanting to bother May Parker after she's come outside to check on what the noise was about. Leaving makes Otto a little sad. Later, one day, Ock tries to ambush Spider-Man. Spidey gets away from him. Otto later enters the Daily Bugle and demands $20 million from JJ or he'll destroy the new Daily Bugle. The Wild Pack, hired by Jameson to protect the Bugle after all the attacks it's had on it, they try to take down Octopus but fail. He then sees that his Trembler device to destroy the Bugle hasn't gone off like he planned. So he kidnaps Marla Jameson, gets a down payment from Jonah, then Spider-Man rushes in to save her. A fight happens and Dr. Octopus saves Spider-Man from drowning. Spidey accepts defeat and Octopus leaves. In January 1992, he was in the game Spider-Man Return of the Sinister Six, but he was just a boss in there. He was in Marvel What The, issue 16. In this crazy story, Dr. Octopus has taken over the North Pole and is forcing the elves to make evil toys, and rhyming while doing so. Santa and Ant-Man stop Octopus in the end. January to June 1992, Dr. Octopus worked with the Sinister Six again in Spider-Man 1990, issues 18 through 23. The story starts out with Dr. Octopus getting a brand new adamantium mechanical arms. He also grabs a truckload of guns for his plans. Later, the other 5 members of the Sinister Six have come together to get revenge on Dr. Octopus for betraying them the last time they all teamed up. Although, Doc Ock confronts Sandman during this, and it's revealed that he wasn't the one who blew up Sandman's old boarding home with the people inside it. Sandman turns to attack the group, but Ock turns him into glass again. Spider-Man and the Hulk try to stop Octopus, but he is way too powerful now and even defeats the Incredible Hulk. Dr. Octopus with the rest of the Six come together to take over alien dimensions for his research. Behind the scenes, he had Electro do whatever it took to get the Six together again. Octopus also destroyed Glass Sandman, apparently killing him. Anyway, in the finale, Doc Ock and his group get destroyed by the characters like the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Nova, Hulk, etc. And he gets the creature Gog to join the Sinister Six, replacing Sandman. But get this, Flint Marko is alive as a glass man, and he fires glass shards at Octopus, slicing him up, sending him to the hospital. Next, Dr. Octopus wins the Incredible Hulk, issue 396. At the Coliseum Casino, Dr. Octopus is going on a rampage for being hassled by security. The ruckus brings down the Hulk, who is in Vegas. Not recognizing the Hulk, Dr. Octopus lashes out at him, but he is easily overpowered and then knocked out by Hulk with just a single flick of his finger. He was in What If, issue 42. Dr. Octopus has taken hostages, and 6-armed Spider-Man beats him up quickly. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy, issues 28 and 29. Dr. Octopus and a bunch of other villains, his Masters of Evil team, try to take over Avengers Mansion during the Infinity War. During the event, the Guardians and Ock's Masters of Evil team up to fight evil doppelgangers of themselves, and every villain afterwards decides to stop the invasion and drive Doc away. He was in What The, issue 22. And I say he, but it's another appearance of Dr. Octopussy versus Spider-Ham as the Doctor tries to detonate a bomb on the Empire State Building and fails. He was in Alpha Flight, issue 121. There's a huge group of rogues, and during a giant brawl, Otto escapes. He was in Marvel Comics Presents, issue 127. So in here, the new warrior Speedball tries to stop Dr. Octopus all by himself, and Otto just views this as playtime for him, amused by Speedball's attempt. He almost kills the guy, but it's shown that he's working for someone named Miss Carlyle, and leaves with her before murder is committed. Next, September to December 1993, the 4-issue miniseries The Lethal Foes of Spider-Man released. This miniseries opens with Dr. Octopus's original metal arm tentacles getting melted. This causes Ock pain, since he's mentally connected with them. With his mind power, though, he detects the character called the Answer. The two work together to get Ock out of prison and get him some new mechanical arms. Afterwards, when the Answer returns to human form, so to say, Ock turns on him and tries to kill him. Otto is interrupted, though, by other villains. Doc Ock recovers and tries to gather up the remnants of his old pairs of mechanical arms, needing to deal with the Answer, disappointed that he couldn't be the one to destroy Spider-Man, but he has other concerns right now. Watching Otto Octavius flee is his cousin, Ellis Hardgrove, who is tired of being forever indebted to Octavius and decides to take the law into his own hands. He confronts Dr. Octopus at his hideout with a gun. Otto easily disarms him, but the police come and he flees. This story was Ellis Hardgrove's first appearance. Spider-Man Unlimited Issue 3 came next. In this story, we get a lot of detail on Otto's pre-metal arms life. He was picked on by all the bullies because he was overweight, and his dad was always yelling at him for not standing up for himself. Years later, his dad died from a construction incident, and later he graduated top of his college class, making his mom super proud. At his job, he fell in love with a girl named Mary Alice, and when he was going to marry her, his mom said no, disapproved, and so they broke up. Later, Otto finds out his mom was dating another guy and blows up at her for not allowing him to date, but she does. This causes her to die from a heart attack, and 3 weeks later, still in grief, the accident which his metal arms, driving him mad, happens, the birth of Dr. Octopus. Now, years later, Ock has stolen some bloodwork from a research lab and Spider-Man is hunting him to figure out what he's up to. Since today, Dr. Octopus doesn't want to fight Spidey, he's super focused on this experiment. Spider-Man tracks Doc Ock into the sewers, where he's running an experiment he's super concentrated on, to the point where when it fails, he stops fighting and peacefully walks into prison. The last page, we learned that Otto's old love, Mary Alice, was diagnosed with AIDS, and assumably Otto's experiment was trying to cure them. He was in What If issue 58. In this reality, the Punisher kills Doc Ock. Next, on March 17th, 1994, Doc Ock was in the game Spider-Man Lethal Foes, and it's a little fight here. The next month, he was in Marvel's issue 4. For him, it's a quick flashbacks to the Death of George Stacy story arc in the Hammerhead vs. Octopus war. He was in Spider-Man Unlimited issue 6. He's here reading a bad article about Spider-Man. It's a funny cameo. And then Dr. Octopus made his first appearance in the TV show Spider-Man the Animated Series on December 18th, 1994. It was the episode 6, titled Dr. Octopus Armed and Dangerous. In the series, he was voiced amazingly by Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. The episode opens with a man with 4 mechanical arms kidnapping Felicia Hardy. There's a ransom note signed by Otto Octavius for money. He wants revenge on Anastasia Hardy, Felicia's mom, for cutting his research funding. Hearing the name Otto Octavius, Peter Parker's mind flashes back. Otto Octavius was a teacher and head administrator of a science camp which young Peter Parker attended, and Otto Octavius helping him out after he got laughed at during a messed up experiment has always stuck with him his whole life, and even now he's a science major at ESU. J. Jonah Jameson delivers the ransom money with Spider-Man secretly waiting and watching over JJJ. Ock goes mad and attacks Jameson, so Spider-Man shows up, but surprisingly, Otto manages to defeat Spider-Man and throw him out a window. He now demands even more money. We learn Dr. Octopus's origin in this show. He designed a battery that used cold fusion. However, his colleagues laughed at him, believing that generating cold fusion in a battery was impossible. Octavius then had to go to the Hardy Foundation, and Anastasia Hardy agreed to fund his research. When his research wasn't moving fast enough, Hardy pulled his funding, so he couldn't afford protection, causing an explosion that fused the metal heart tentacles to his body. Okay, so Peter later arrives to drop off the ransom, and he tells Dr. Octopus that he used to be a student of his. Dr. Octopus then showed Peter his cold fusion battery. Pete then demanded Ock to release his hostages. However, he became angry and threw Peter out a window. He returned as Spider-Man and had to defeat Dr. Octopus to save Felicia Hardy and Jameson, as Otto just activated a rocket blast to melt them in a minute. During their fight, Spider-Man shot a web at Dr. Octopus's eyes so that he couldn't see. As Doc Ock removed the web, he saw that Spider-Man was holding the cold fusion battery, and then, well, he throws it. Dr. Octopus catches the battery, and Spider-Man activates another magnet above Doc Ock's arms, and he's stuck hanging from them, where he's later then taken to prison, where he swore he would get revenge. Dr. Octopus is next, and one of his biggest in his mythos was in the 4-part storyline Web of Death. It was in the Amazing Spider-Man 397 and 398 and Spectacular Spider-Man 220 and 221, January and February 1995. Spider-Man has been poisoned and collapses on the ground. Spider-Man's body is discovered by his old foe, Dr. Octopus. He has been watching Spider-Man since his most recent escape from the vault and has noticed that the hero has changed and doesn't like what he sees. He thinks of their long-standing rivalry, and it causes him to wonder why he truly became Dr. Octopus. Was it during his first battle with Spider-Man, or was it years later or earlier, thanks to an abusive father and smothering mother? Later, Doc Ock confides in his girlfriend called Stunner about she is the best thing that's ever happened to him, that he is upset about what has happened to Spider-Man. He explains that regardless of his hatred of Spidey, he always saw him as an honorable man, full of intelligence and good humor. However, it now seems that Spider-Man of old is gone, and all that's left is a humorless thug, a persona, much like what Dr. Octopus believes himself to have become. Arden realizes how much he depended on Spider-Man to maintain a certain level of humanity. This story is Stunner's first appearance, just for a fun fact. So too weak to fight back, Spider-Man takes a serious beating from Stunner, and she is stopped by Doc Ock, who arrives on the scene before she can kill his old foe. He realizes that there is something seriously wrong with Spider-Man. He thought the wall-crawler's illness was being faked, but now intends to find out what to do next. He then unmasks the web-slinger, and is surprised to see that Spider-Man is really Peter Parker. Well, in the next issue, while trying to cure Spider-Man, the webhead jumps away. Later, the two characters calmly talk to each other, and Peter Parker agrees to get help from Otto Octavius. And Doc Ock does cure Spider-Man. Afterwards, Dr. Octopus had SWAT called on him, and he joyfully surrenders. Secretly, Otto's going to have Stunner rescue him. However, before he can get to jail, the new character, Kane, busts through the prison truck and snaps his neck. Yep, this was the death of Dr. Octopus. February 13th, 1995, Doc Ock was in Spider-Man the Animated Series game, and here, he has escaped from Ravencroft, and Spider-Man stops him before he destroys the city. He was in What If issue 76 as a cameo. And same thing in What If issue 78. Next came Spider-Man the Animated Series episodes 14 and 15, the Insidious Six parts 1 and 2, the season 2 premiere episodes. In here, Dr. Octopus isn't the leader of the Sinister Six, which is called the Insidious Six here, because of censors. That's why it was called Insidious 6. The episode is premiering on September 9th and 16th, 1995. The episode has the Kingpin of Crime schedule a prison breakout by the Chameleon, and he breaks out Rhino, Shocker, Mysterio, Scorpion, and Dr. Octopus. They cause wreckage to draw out Spider-Man, and they fight him, but Spidey manages to escape. After a little argument with the Scorpion, Octopus lays out this plan to get Spider-Man to come to their trap by kidnapping May Parker, the aunt of Peter Parker, the man who takes all of the webhead's pictures. Peter Parker doesn't have his powers at the moment, but still tries to fight the Six to save Aunt May. The Insidious Six easily capture him and think Pete was just pretending to be Spider-Man since he couldn't find the real one. Doc Ock defends Peter from the rest, saying he was his best student, and they plan for Peter to betray Spider-Man at a setup meeting the next night. Well, the meeting doesn't go as planned, and Spider-Man easily gets away from the Six. In fact, Scorpion melts one of Doc Ock's metal arms. One of the last shots of the episode has the Six disband and stop working for the Kingpin. Carolyn Trainer, Lady Octopus, made her first full appearance next in The Amazing Spider-Man 406 and Spider-Man issue 63, October 1995. Yep, after Otto Octavius' death, he was replaced by Carolyn Trainer. She now has identical tentacles like he did. Saber Trainer continues to go over the data when she's interrupted by Scarlet Spider. However, she is prepared for the hero, not just with her mechanical arms, but also with a personalized force field that she uses to deflect the hero's attack. Restraining her father, Seaward Trainer, she explains she is doing this because she holds scientific achievement above human life. The Scarlet Spider then finds out that the two are related. Eventually, the original Spider-Man joins the fight against her, but gets knocked out by her and dangled off a building. Scarlet Spider saves Peter Parker Spider-Man and allows Carolyn to escape. What If issue 82, but it was a silhouette Easter egg, very lame. He is in the universe of Spider-Boy, and appearing in Spider-Boy issue 1. In this universe, Otto Octavius works for Project Cadmus. He was Spider-Boy's best friend and often set him up on blind dates, including one with Mary Jane Watson, aka the superheroine Insect Queen. Dr. Octopus was in Spider-Man the Animated Series, episodes 29 and 30, May 4th and May 11th, 1996, titled Make-A-Wish, Attack of the Octobot. The episode opens up with Dr. Octopus attacking a showcase for this revolutionary laser, one that can only hit inorganic material. He gets hunted down by Spider-Man when he breaks in, and there's a big fight where Spider-Man actually gets two of Ock's metal arms completely cut off, but there's an explosion and Ock gets thrown into the ocean and escapes. Otto has created an Octobot with the Spider Slayer Seeker attached onto it. It tracks down Spider-Man and captures him. When Spider-Man's captured, well, he wakes up and has amnesia, and Octavius manipulates Spider-Man to believe that Spidey's a criminal like him, and the two commit more crimes for Octavius's weapons. Eventually, Spider-Man regains his memory, and Doc Ock is stopped by his own Octobot. Next for Dr. Octopus was also in Spider-Man the Animated Series in episodes 43 and 44, coming out February 8th and 15th, 1997. The episode titles were The Black Cat. The episodes start out by Dr. Octopus getting revenge on Anastasia Hardy, and Spider-Man shows up and Ock runs away when the police arrive during their fight. He then gets hit by knockout gas, and the Kingpin kidnaps him into a plane and forces Doc Ock to stop his attack on the Hardys because of his own plans. Other than that, Otto just pops in during the end of episode 44 and gets knocked out of a plane, but he's wearing a parachute. The next month, he was in Untold Tales of Spider-Man, issue 19, March 1997. Today starts out with the trial of Dr. Octopus. Octavius insists that he is being framed and that the mechanical arms on display are fake. Despite Peter's warnings from the viewing gallery, the judge orders the mechanical arms taken out of their display case. This allows Dr. Octopus to mentally control his arms and use them to escape. Later, Spider-Man finds Doc Ock hiding at an Acme warehouse, incidentally the place where his Uncle Ben's killer hid out before he was captured by the wall crawler. Inside, Doc Ock created a remote-control flying bomb, which he hopes to use to hold the city ransom. Spider-Man tricks Octavius in the inevitable battle to destroy the bomb's propeller and cause it crashing into a lake, and arrests Doc Ock after that. Dr. Octopus was in another game, Spider-Man the Sinister Six. It was like a PC clicker game where Doc Ock was the leader of the Six again. He was in Spider-Boy Team Up number 1. And in this issue, Otto in the Spider-Boy universe, well, dies. Okay, next he was in What If issue 99. It opens with Doc Ock fighting Spider-Man and the Black Cat, and then losing the fight. He was in Amazing Spider-Man issues 425 to 429. Carolyn Trainer, Dr. Octopus, is working in her secret lab when she hears a radio report about how her predecessor, Otto Octavius, had just got his grave robbed. Horrified by this, she becomes determined to find who was responsible. Well, long story short, Dr. Octopus was resurrected by the ninja criminal organization named The Hand. Upon resurrection, Otto forgot Spider-Man's identity. Though the two figures fight, with Octavius automatically just wanting to kill his foe, he gets away. The reason for this was the memories he gained came from a computer chip provided by his associate Carolyn Trainer with his recorded memories. Carolyn Trainer then returned the tentacles to Otto. She then joined Otto as an assistant and faded into the background for him to move forward. Also, the ceremony that brought Octavius back caused the feedback through a virtual reality hardware and put Stunner in a catatonic state. Brought to tears, Otto cradles Angela's body in his arms and blames Spider-Man for this and vows to get revenge. In issue 429, we see Otto and Carolyn laughing at a story of Spider-Man in the Daily Bugle. Dr. Octopus returned to Spider-Man the Animated Series in episodes 54 to 58, the episodes premiering 1 week after the other, starting September 19th, 1997 to October 17th, 1997. These episodes were just titled The Six Forgotten Warriors. He was in the Insidious Six again with Shocker, Rhino, Scorpion, Chameleon, and the Vulture replacing Mysterio. Their first mission was breaking into S.H.I.E.L.D. HQ and releasing the Chameleon. After that, they head to Russia and coincidentally grab Spider-Man and bring him to the Kingpin's HQ there. Silver Sable and her Wild Pack capture them all for the Fox Skull, a Red Skull imposter, but the tables turn and they all escape before they die of radiation poisoning. Then, they look for some mini statues that are really keys to a doomsday device the Red Skull hid that the Kingpin wants to be able to control so he can rule the world. The Six and the Kingpin go around collecting the keys when Spider-Man shows up and personally fights Octopus, almost winning if Fisk didn't hold Robbie Robertson hostage. And then, in episode 58, the Insidious Six work together with the heroes to fight the Red Skull's giant robots and all get knocked down by Electro. After the Kingpin is hospitalized, Doc Ock and the rest decide to leave. Next came Spider-Man Unlimited issue 18. In here, Otto's memories are still recovering, and he just wants to be left alone. Confused by why the world at large hates him, Octavius asks Trainer to explain to him why this is. In this issue, Killing Trainer was officially labeled as Lady Octopus. Okay, so then the story goes, she retells his origin, and it's basically Spider-Man Unlimited issue 3 all over again, exactly when it comes to the origin. We do learn that Mr. Fantastic found out how to remove his arms after Amazing Spider-Man issue 12, and the history goes until his resurrection. But throughout the hour plus in this video already, we don't need to hear any more repeats. Then, it gives some really cool facts about Ock's metal tentacles. Then afterwards came his last appearances in Spider-Man Taz, episodes 61 to 63, Secret Wars parts 1 through 3, November 7th, 14th, and 21st, 1997. In Secret Wars, 5 villains have been put onto a planet by the Beyonder, and a group of heroes have to stop the bad guys. Dr. Octopus and Alistair Smythe joined forces with the Red Skull. It is mentioned that Dr. Octopus's domain, Octavia, was taken over by Dr. Doom. Octavius helps the two with his technology, but afterwards the Skull plans to kill Otto. Later, Black Cat hunts down the Red Skull, but Doc Ock sneaks up behind her and grabs her, but Spider-Man swing kicks into Otto later, taking him down and saving the day. The last shot is Octavius going home and forgetting about the Secret Wars. This was his last appearance in the series. He was in Spider-Man Chapter 1, issues 1 through 4. In these 4 issues, it's a retelling of Spider-Man's first few appearances, and the biggest change with his origin is the accident that caused Peter Parker to gain powers is the same one that created Dr. Octopus. He wakes up and takes over the hospital, like in the original Amazing Spider-Man issue 3. He fights/defeats Spider-Man when he shows up, and he gets stopped in the exact same way as it was back in July 1963. Alright, next was the premiere of the Universal Studios Spider-Man ride on March 20th, 1999, with Dr. Octopus leading a new Sinister Six for the ride story. He was voiced by Roger Bumpass here. The same month, Doc Ock made an appearance in the novel Spider-Man: The Gathering of the Sinister Six. In this book, the Chameleon breaks out Dr. Octopus from his special holding cell. In prison, he doesn't have his metal arms with him. He agrees to wait and hear what the Chameleon's boss has to offer when he gets out of prison, or breaks out of prison. He was then in Nova Volume 3, Issue 1. In here, the Rogue is causing chaos, and Nova punches him out. He was in Amazing Spider-Man 1999, Issue 6, June 1999. Octavius attempted to create his own personal assassin in the form of a villainous, mutated entity he dubbed Spider-Woman. Spider-Man manages to escape Ock's arms since this new Spider-Woman doesn't want to kill Spidey. He returned in Spider-Woman Volume 3, Issue 2. Otto Octavius was involved in a plot involving using prosthetic limbs as mind control devices to create an army of minions. He gets stopped in the end by Spider-Man and a new kid. He was in Amazing Spider-Man 1999, issues 9 and 10. People who were at the experiment that turned Peter Parker into Spider-Man are being hunted down, like Doc Ock. The person doing this calls himself Captain Power, beneath the wreckage of General Tektronics Labs. Mocking him for his criminal career, Power ties Ock to a large piece of machinery and introduces himself. He began to set up lab equipment as Octavius watched and mocked him, finally calling him Chris. Enraged, Power asks how he knew his identity, and the doctor responds with laughing, stating he recognized her, yes her, pitiful attempts at a laboratory operation, directing her to kill the last name on her list. Dr. Octopus explains that Captain Power was crippled in the explosion and now she wants revenge. He gets away when Spider-Man comes back to the scene and defeats her. He was in the cartoon Spider-Man Unlimited Episode 1 on October 2nd, 1999. It was a cameo appearance with Spider-Man shown to be fighting him. He's looking a lot different than his animated series design. The last appearance of Dr. Octopus in the 20th century came in a Sinister Six story in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, Issue 12, and Peter Parker Spider-Man Issue 12, December 1999. Stuart Ward has hired Dr. Octopus for protection against an assassin. But at this moment, the Sinister Six have come back together for revenge on Dr. Octopus. Spider-Man steps in to protect Otto. Octopus gets interrogated by Spider-Man later about the Six, and then gets knocked out by one of Craven 2's darts. His next and first appearance in the 21st century was in Webspinner's Tales of Spider-Man issues 17 and 18, May 2000. Octavius resurfaced in an attempt to kidnap a Palestinian ambassador in hopes of causing chaos. He got the Sinister Syndicate to unknowingly work for his cause as well. Here, Otto's a lot more violent and even scary. Spider-Man stops him and he apparently dies in the finale as the building crumbles on top of him. On August 30th, 2000, the first 3D Spider-Man game, just titled Spider-Man or Spider-Man PS1, released. Dr. Octopus was the main villain of the game, and the voice actor for Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man Taz reprised his role here. The game starts with a seemingly reformed Otto Octavius showing off a new technological invention until it gets stolen. He comes back in the end, revealing him to be the master planner behind everything. He tried to frame Spider-Man and had come up with a plan to create an army of symbiote villains, and he also fogged the city. In his boss fight, he draw power away from his personal force field, then beat him up. After the fight, the coordinated symbiote detaches itself from Cletus Cassidy and bonds to Dr. Octopus. As the undersea base becomes unstable, Spider-Man ran to find a way to escape. As Spider-Man did this, the Monster Ock followed him and attempted to kill Spider-Man. As Spider-Man escaped the undersea base, Monster Ock was caught in the explosion. Otto Octavius survived, but the coordinated symbiote seemingly perished. He was then taken to jail with Mysterio and the others. Also, I'll say this in here, he has a brief cameo at the end of Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, but it's just a reuse of a clip from this game. The Buzz issue 3 came out the next month. In an alternate future of MC2, it's revealed that Dr. Octopus attacked the Daily Bugle shortly after the disappearance/retirement of Spider-Man, and he killed Robbie Robertson. The Buzz and Spider-Girl eventually apprehend Dr. Octopus, who is now being struck with cancer, falls into a coma from which he is not expected to recover. Carolyn Trainer eventually is the new Octopus villain. Next, Dr. Octopus was in the 3-issue miniseries Spider-Man Death and Destiny. Otto Octavius is back in town, but needs to repair his metal tentacles. After that, Francis was beaten by Octopus to try and frame Spider-Man. When that didn't work, he went to the Bugle and attempted to kill J. Jonah Jameson. There's a fight, and Spidey lets Ock escape to save JJJ. The Sentry/Spider-Man issue 1 and Sentry vs. the Void number 1. The story opens with Spider-Man facing Ock. The villain escapes though, and in the story Sentry vs. the Void, it was a flashback to this scene. July 2001, he was in the novel Spider-Man Revenge of the Sinister Six as a sequel to the Gathering of the Sinister Six book. In the story, the Sinister Six are paid by the gentleman that cause havoc and attacks Spider-Man for a day, and their plan is to make Spidey revisit the addresses of his greatest failures. Dr. Octopus causes havoc and forces Spider-Man to relive the death of Captain George Stacy, but this time the person is quick enough to push a kid out of the way of a falling chimney and themselves. Diane has the Six attack/raid the Daily Bugle offices, and a side note, the Vulture and Dr. Octopus hate each other at this time. Diane has them go on to the next step. But now, for the Ultimate Universe appearances, I'm just going to talk about them when the full volume appearance came out, otherwise this video would be even more confusing and long. So, in December 2001, Otto Octavius appeared in Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1. In this universe, Otto Octavius is the top scientist for Oscorp Industries. He was in the same accident that turned Norman Osborn into the Ultimate Goblin, but he survived the explosion and was taken care of as far as we know. The Defenders Volume 2, Issue 10. It was an Easter egg. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, Issue 36, the iconic 9/11 issue. Yes, Doc Ock appeared in here. We see Otto as one of the many villains sad about the terrorist attack. The novel, the last part of the Sinister Six novel trilogy, Spider-Man Secret of the Sinister Six, released March 2002. In this story, Otto is still working for the gentleman and starts to get really irritated with his condescending attitude. So much so that in the conclusion, Octavius sneaks onto the gentleman's plane, leaving New York, and attacks him. Spider-Man has this huge battle with Ock to save the old man, but the gentleman here was secretly the chameleon in disguise. Next came Peter Parker's Spider-Man issues 39 through 41. The second villain that calls himself Fusion has found Octavius underground using an assumed name. Octavius created detailed cybernetic limbs that could also control their owners by turning the systems that received information from the subject's nervous systems into transmitters that could control them. He now has a controlling computer satellite, originally used to identify where nuclear bombs had been detonated, with the intention of using it to track Spider-Man's unique radiation signature instead. At the start, Fusion 2 pushes and bullies Octavius around. He orders him to fight Spider-Man and whatnot. Eventually, Otto revealed that he was acting, pretending to be a coward to get the satellite working and basically put into his hands. Doc Ock now has a satellite's control device, and Spider-Man tracks him to a construction site to stop him. There's a cool fight scene, and Spider-Man saves Octavius' life. He was in Spider-Man's Tangled Web, issue 13. He's an Easter egg. Let's now look at Ultimate Dr. Octopus when he made his return in Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 3, Double Trouble. Dr. Otto Octavius has woken up from his coma with his metal mechanical arm still attached to him from the explosion. He wakes up in his secret lab, holding him there because it was interesting that the arms were fused to his body, and he wanted to see what would happen. Otto is able to control his arms telepathically now and escapes the hospital he was in. He goes to the Hammer Towers and attacks the main offices of Justin Hammer, head of Hammer Industries. Octavius screams about his hatred of Hammer because he thinks Hammer tried to kill him after paying him to spy on Oscorp Industries, and blames him for the explosion. Later, he attacks a new energy resource plant being shown off by Hammer Industries. Spider-Man arrives to save people, but Octopus just knocks him around and tases Spider-Man into unconsciousness, throwing him out of the plant and leaving. He returns at Hammer Industries with a news crew to expose the dirty secrets of Justin Hammer. Again, Spider-Man shows up to save lives, specifically Justin Hammer's, and stops the six-armed villain by pulling his pants down with webbing, then when he's distracted, knocking him out and webbing him down and ripping off a metal arm or two. The very last page in this volume reveals that Dr. Otto Octavius knows Peter Parker's secret identity. He was in Spider-Man Quality of Life, number 1, July 2002. Octopus is chasing Spider-Man across buildings, but Spidey arrests him. Deadline 2002, issue 2. Dr. Octopus is shown fighting Spider-Man for one page. He was in Get Kraven, issue 1. Again, an Easter egg. He was in Amazing Spider-Man 1999, issues 43 through 45. In the story, Otto Octavius gets his metal arms back, but then he gets hit with knockout gas. Octavius wakes up to see Luke Carlisle, the CEO of a company, who tricked Otto to come into his knockout gas trap. He had a scientist and his company copy Octavius' cybernetic control to look something like, it's a lot cooler than his, basically, into a new six-armed power suit. Yes, this leads into a fight between the first and newest Dr. Octopus. Spider-Man gets involved to save innocents, and there's a moment where Otto helps Spider-Man hold up the building, waiting for civilians to run out. Otto finds Carlisle, and there's another moment where Aunt May and Otto recognize each other from the past. Carlisle was defeated by a combined effort between Octavius and Spider-Man, with Octopus cracking Carlisle's suit and Spider-Man filling the suit with webbing via the crack, but in a one-on-one fight, Carlisle beats up Octavius. He was in Spider-Man's Tangled Web, issue 19. He and a bunch of other rogues are laughing at Rhino and Grizzly. Alias, issue 15, December 2002. It's a cameo where the Human Torch and Spider-Man are chasing Ock in the streets. And next, Dr. Octopus was in Spectacular Spider-Man Volume 2, issues 6 through 10. One night, Octopus, with new enhanced metal tentacles, interrupts Spider-Man and calmly tells him to take off his mask and reveal himself to the world. Later, Dr. Octopus revisits his old house he grew up in. It has a revelation in Otto's past. When his dad had the accident that injured him, he went home and not to the hospital. His mom walked out on one night, and that was the night his dad died. Otto sat at his dad's bedside and watched him die. One thing Otto wants is to completely have like a great project to show his father he was always wrong about him. Octopus put a minister in the danger of death, which could result in a world war if Spider-Man doesn't reveal what's under the mask in time. He does, and it's a second mask. Of course, it doesn't fully make Otto satisfied. Otto's bulb doesn't go off when he activates it though, and he gets embarrassed and laughed at by Spider-Man in front of the world, partly because he came to Spider-Man's unmasking himself to gloat. When Otto runs into the sewers, he kills a cop down there, and he does it just to make Spidey mad, and Spider-Man then goes ballistic on Octopus, webbing him, bleeding for the cops. Spider-Man Dr. Octopus Negative Exposure 1 through 5. This starts with Octopus stealing art, but Spidey stops him and puts him in jail. The thing is, a new Daily Bugle photographer wants to get a one-up on Peter Parker, get a front page, and he gets manipulated by Otto to break him out of prison. Then Ock goes on a rampage and beats up Spider-Man. Spidey comes back in the end and defeats Dr. Octopus all over again. Spider-Man Dr. Octopus Out of Reach, issues 1 through 5. Doc Ock tries to rob a bank, but Spider-Man stops him. Ock destroys the building the vault was in, but the vault remained intact. So, Octopus is in search of more power, and this time he finds a sidekick in Wonder Kid, Brigham Fontaine. He kidnaps the guy, since this guy was the guy who made that vault originally. Spider-Man saves Brigham, but Brigham goes right back to Ock and begins to act as his protege, resenting how reliant he was on other people, and seeing Ock's independence as everything he wanted to emulate. So he makes a device that lets Ock break into the vault, and they go on a crime spree together. Now, the TV say Dr. Octopus is now Brigham's sidekick, so Ock decides to drop him off a roof, but Brigham says he'll continue Ock's legacy for him, that he views Otto as a father. The two go to a nuclear plant to mutate Brigham's molecules and make him a walking nuclear battery. Spider-Man arrived in the middle of the conversion process, battling Ock and convincing him to stop the process just as Brigham was overloaded with energy and his heart stopped. Ock saves the guy's life by using CPR, and Spider-Man then knocks Ock out. The last page sees Otto crying, feeling sad that Brigham has no memory of all this, and the public thinking Otto just kidnapped this guy over and over again. A version of him was in Magaverse Spider-Man and Spider-Man Legends of the Spider-Clan 1-3 and 5. Otto Octavius is a high school science teacher. His class is constantly interrupted by the outbursts of Peter Parker. Despite this, he is a dedicated teacher who has a student's best interests at heart. He has no powers but is easily bribed by things involving octopi. And next, in June 2004, Dr. Octopus was in Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 9, Ultimate 6. He was in the 6-issue miniseries titled, Ultimate 6. Otto Octavius has been taken to S.H.I.E.L.D. custody and pretends that he regrets his past actions and wants to reform, help out S.H.I.E.L.D. in any way he can. When they bring him to their lab, he sees his metal arms. Using his mental power over them, he kills the doctors and breaks out the 5 other Spider-Man villains kept there. When the Ultimate Six, led by Norman Osborn, the Goblin, and they have Electro, Sandman, Kraven, and surprisingly Spider-Man with them, they attack the White House. The ultimate version of the Avengers, fight the Ultimate Six, and the Wasp specifically flies in the dog Ock's mouth and knocks him out that way. He was in Marvel Age Spider-Man issue 2. It opens with Dr. Octopus's origin, but before, there's a little kid who calls out the name Dr. Octopus, even though he only has 6 arms, not 8, and Otto defends this by saying the name is counting his legs. When he wakes up after the accident, he thinks it was sabotage and is being kept in a government prison to secretly destroy him. Otto gets out of the hospital after defeating Spider-Man, then tries to burn his research onto discs to continue his work in private, but Spider-Man stops him in an underwater fight. A lot like issue 3, but also a lot different. On June 28, 2004, Dr. Octopus was in the video game Spider-Man 2, PS2. He was voiced by Alfred Molina, the live-action actor for Dr. Octopus. The story is like the film with him. Dr. Otto Octavius becomes the evil Dr. Octopus after a lab accident fuses the mechanical arms used in his work to his spine. He goes on a bank robbery to get money to continue his work. And then there's a fight on a moving train. The final battle in the video game has Spider-Man unmasked, with Otto knowing now that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, fighting Octavius to shut down the machine. Octavius realizes the error of his ways and sacrifices his life to shut down the machine. 2 days later, on June 30th, 2004, Dr. Octopus was the main villain in the movie Spider-Man 2, played by Alfred Molina. And this is not just my favorite superhero movie ever, but my favorite movie of all time. The movie has Dr. Otto Octavius. He's a nuclear scientist starting a project to harness a fusion power harness. Peter Parker is writing a paper of him for college, and thanks to Harry funding Otto's work through Oscorp, the two meet up and talk. Otto has heard from Kurt Connors that Peter is brilliant but lazy. Later, during the public demonstration of the fusion reactor, a power spike causes it to destabilize. Octavius refuses to shut down the reactor, which then goes critical, and it kills his wife and burns the inhibitor chip that he uses to control his metal arms, which block the arms from his nervous system. As Spider-Man, Peter manages to shut the experiment down, but Otto is knocked out. At a hospital, doctors prepare to surgically remove Octavius' harness without the inhibitor chip. The arms have become sentient and defend themselves by killing all the doctors. Dr. Octopus wakes up and heads down to the docks to get away. He takes refuge at a harbor, and now corrupted by his arm's AI, he decides to retry his experiment and rob a bank to fund it. The Daily Beagle dubs this scientist Dr. Octopus. When he robs a bank, that leads him into a battle with Spider-Man. He grabs May Parker as a hostage and later gets hit in the head by her cane, shattering his glasses, and he knocks her off a ledge, forcing Spider-Man to leave Ock to go save her. Requiring the isotope tritium to fuel his reactor, Octavius visits Harry Osborn to demand it. Harry agrees in exchange for Spider-Man, whom he still believes is responsible for his father's death. He tells Octavius to seek Peter, who Harry believes is friends with Spider-Man, but tells him not to harm Peter. So Octavius locates Peter Parker and tells him to find Spider-Man and captures Mary Jane. Her endangerment leads to a huge fight between Spider-Man, Peter Parker becoming Spider-Man again, and he fights Dr. Octopus on a clock tower, and they fall onto a moving train. During this, Octavius destroys the train controls and Spider-Man stops the train all by himself, taking its toll. So yeah, Dr. Octopus easily captures a weakened Spider-Man and delivers him to Harry Osborn, getting the tritium and leaving back to his fusion reactor on the docks. Spider-Man tracks Dr. Octopus to his new trail. They battle again and a nuclear reaction starts threatening the city. Peter reveals his identity and persuades Octavius through a good speech to let him to basically let his dream die for the greater good. Octavius commands the tentacles to obey him and sacrifices his life to destroy the experiment. Ultimate Dr. Octopus was then in Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 10, titled Hollywood, which collected issues 54 through 59. Ultimate Octavius has been in the raft since last volume, without his arms. A guard there tells him about a Spider-Man movie with him as the villain happening. His ex-wife has given the movie producers his likeness. This news brings Otto out of his funk, and he breaks out of prison and heads to California, killing an owner of a house to live there for a bit. Otto's ex badmouths him on TV again and again. This sets him off to go find her in Hollywood, working on a movie where Spider-Man is there at that moment coincidentally as well. Oh yeah, and Otto still knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. There's a huge fight, and Octopus knocks out and brings Spider-Man onto a plane to kill him. He rips out one of Peter Parker's teeth even. Anyway, Spider-Man tricks Otto into thinking he's escaped the plane, then surprise attacks him, knocking him out. Back in S.H.I.E.L.D. custody, Nick Fury melts Dr. Octopus's mechanical arms right in front of him and instructs the guards to watch the melting mechanism for at least an hour afterward to make sure the arms will not try to escape. He was in Marvel Knights Spider-Man 5 and 6. In this, Octavius is in custody at Rikers Island and was drugged and brainwashed to be used as a weapon. He escapes prison, but the police put a bunch of tranks in his back. Spider-Man shows up and riles up Octavius, making the tranks work slower. Eventually, Otto is put back in custody. Marvel Age Spider-Man 10 and 11. These two issues are basically just Amazing Spider-Man issues 11 and 12, but for little kids. The big difference is Otto and Blackie Gaxton meet in prison, they share a cell, and they escape. Spider-Man interrupts Ock's plan, and a fight on a boat that crashes spreads the two apart. And just like issue 12, Amazing Spider-Man gets his mask pulled off, but Dr. Octopus beats up Spider-Man so easily he thinks Peter Parker was just pretending. And then Dr. Octopus was in another 5-issue series called Spider-Man Dr. Octopus Year 1. This story is a modern retelling of the origin and first appearance of Dr. Octopus. It all opens with Otto being inspired by Leonardo da Vinci. Yes, Otto's dad is still abusive here, but his mom is supportive of his scientific ambitions. His dad hurts his hand one night on a glass beaker while yelling at Otto for being beaten up by bullies, basically. And when his dad leaves, Otto thanks the beaker for hurting his dad like the beaker was a real thing. When he gets accepted into MIT in the future, Otto confronts his father, making him mad. Sometime later, Otto is informed that his father has passed away in a machinery accident at work. Instead of grieving, he thanks the machinery for killing his father. In his father's funeral, Otto argues with the priest over whether his father was a good man. Otto later is working with the military in radiation. One day the reactor overheats and the job counselor makes him take a break. Then other stuff happens, like how his mom tells Otto that Mary Alice is just pretending to be nice to him. Basically a co-worker he meets. And to break it off with her, and he hopes with her. He does. Then his mom actually has a boyfriend at home and he yells at her for being hypocritical, giving her a heart attack and killing her. Anyway, the accident fuses his metal arms to him, happens, and he takes over a hospital, almost kills Mary Alice but lets her live, and leaves after defeating Spider-Man, who he was interested in after seeing him on TV. We learn poisonous radiation is flowing through Otto's body now, and he needs money to run experiments. He turns to the Tinkerer for help, giving him a spider tracer, and Tinkerer agrees. That night on TV, he sees a protest of nuclear power plants harming the Earth, and he decides to take over the plant. This leads to the big conclusion battle between him and Spider-Man when Spider-Man punches Ock in the face and ruins his tentacles. Ock starts crying, imagining the bullies beating him up as a kid. Mary Alice tries to help Otto, exclaiming that the reactor is running better now thanks to him, but Ock is just crazy right now. He tells her to stop talking and basically banishes himself to be all alone. The last page shows us his obsession with the Amazing Spider-Man has sparked. What If Aunt May Died Instead of Uncle Ben was a story that came next for his history, and it's a cameo. He was in She-Hulk 2004 issue 10, but it was just a flashback to Secret Wars number 1. Daredevil Volume 2 issue 69, March 2005. We learn in the past Dr. Octopus was once defeated by the White Tiger. Then came Marvel Knights Spider-Man issues 11 and 12. Otto interrupts a battle between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin on the Brooklyn Bridge, and the two villains were struck by lightning and fell into the river below. Octopus was dragged out days later with no memories of the event. Dr. Octopus was the leader of the Sinister Six in Marvel Adventure Spider-Man issues 2 and 3. Dr. Octopus mentally controls his arms that were removed from his body to break him and 5 other Spidey rogues out. The Six's plan is to ambush Spider-Man altogether, but he doesn't confront them in the streets. The Fantastic Four does, and this goes on long enough for Otto to just kidnap J. Jonah Jameson and May Parker to get Spider-Man to come get him. Spidey rescues them and takes out the Six, with the final villain to take down being Dr. Octopus. They fight in the river behind his warehouse. Secrets of House of M, Issue 1, and the Pulse House of M special. In the House of M universe, Otto Octavius, the son of an overbearing mother and a bullying father, Otto Octavius grew up to become a reclusive, but brilliant atomic researcher. It was this area of expertise that first brought him to the attention of the U.S. government. He was originally brought in to help find a cure for the mutant threat because many believed mutations were caused by radiation and not actual evolution. Otto could find no basis for this theory, but during his many experiments, he discovered mutants were immune to many diseases and illnesses that struck down humans. He began to research the possibility that humans could greatly benefit from mutant stem cells, since there is currently a ban on research of that. Otto kind of has become obsessed with this and has made it his life's work. He was in Marvel Team Up Volume 3, Issue 14. The issue opens with Spider-Man fighting Ock in a building, and Invincible flies through a wall and knocks into Octopus. At the very end of the issue, Invincible, Mark, tears completely apart Ock's metal tentacles. The Century, issues 2 and 3. It's an Easter egg. July 2006, he was in Marvel Adventures Spider-Man, issue 15. While still in jail, Otto Octavius commands his metal arms to break out of evidence and attack Spider-Man, thereby to convince a judge that the arms made him commit crimes. Well, in the fight, the arms got electrocuted and now they act like a lost dog and bond to Spider-Man. However, Otto did get released from prison and went on a search for his arms, finding them again right in front of Peter Parker. Pete quickly comes back as Spider-Man, and then the mechanical arms attach onto Spider-Man and hit Octavius. Spidey gets the arms off of him, but the arms ignore Octavius' commands, and he goes back to prison and the arms get studied. And now, here we are to the Amazing Spider-Man issue 533, the issue where during the Marvel Comics Civil War, Spider-Man publicly unmasks himself. Of course, Otto is here learning that Peter Parker is secretly Spider-Man all over again. Sensational Spider-Man 2006 issue 28 came next. The reveal that Peter Parker is Spider-Man sets Dr. Octopus off, as all these years he was beaten by a teenager. He tracks Peter down and fights him, remembering that time he unmasked Spider-Man in ASM 12, but thinking that he was just pretending to be Spider-Man at that time. Anyway, one of Peter's students, since he's a science teacher now, distracts the rogue for Spider-Man to punch him. Iron Man Volume 4 issue 14 came next. Otto is seen in a prison. Then, Thunderbolts issues 104, 107, and 108 were happening next. So, Ock had been sent to Baron Zemo's supervillain detention facility and is one of the ex-supervillains trying to hunt down the renegade superheroes. Ock abandons the team when he realizes being a part of the Thunderbolts is pointless. Next up has to do with Ultimate Dr. Octopus again in Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 17 Clone Saga, specifically Ultimate Spider-Man issues 102 to 104. In here, Dr. Octopus is revealed to be the big brain behind the Clone Saga in the Ultimate Universe. Their experimentation and research was done for the FBI in order to find a way to create super soldiers so the US government wouldn't have to be relying on Nick Fury's monopoly on the Ultimates. He appeared alongside Fury, S.H.I.E.L.D., and the Fantastic Four in the storming of an Osborn Industries plant and was outside Fury's jurisdiction. Anyway, Otto snaps and kills a sixth-armed Spider-Man clone and exposes that he is able to control metal. In a huge fight, it ends with Peter Parker and Spider-Woman knocking out Dr. Octopus. Next, Doc Ock was in the video game Spider-Man Friend or Foe on October 2nd, 2007. Ock here is heavily inspired by the Raimi films, and he was the first boss battle in the game. He was voiced by Joe Alaki. In the game, Dr. Octopus has out and back together his fusion reactor from Spider-Man 2. He does it because he was mind-controlled by somebody. After you beat him and break the mind-control device, Otto comes back to his senses and decides to work with Spider-Man to find out who is controlling him. And that's really it for Doc Ock's story. He was in Marvel Adventures Spider-Man issue 33, releasing January 2008. So this issue opens with Dr. Otto Octavius moving in with Aunt May and Peter Parker as part of a villain relocation program May Parker has signed up for. One day, Spider-Man leaves school to check up on his aunt and sees Otto hold her in the air with his tentacles. Spider-Man jumps down and punches Ock. Well, Otto was just helping Aunt May do some spring cleaning, like trim the trees and clean out the basement. It's revealed, though, that he just moved into Aunt May's place to dig a tunnel through their basement into a plant to steal a laser cannon. Spider-Man figures this out, and in the fight, liquid nitrogen falls on Ock's metal arms. And Spider-Man shatters them up. Then, on March 8th, 2008, Otto Octavius was in the very first episode, the premiere episode of the show The Spectacular Spider-Man. It was titled Survival of the Fittest. Peter McNichol provided his voice here. Having once worked for Tricorp, Dr. Otto Octavius invented a set of highly advanced mechanical tentacles controlled via a brain-computer interface to assist him to do dangerous experiments and become the lead scientist for its competitor, Oscorp Industries. In Episode 1, Adrian Toomes blames Octavius for Oscorp stealing his flight harness design, berating him in a lab. Next in Otto's mythos was his next appearances in the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon, Episodes 5, 6, and 7, and 8. Yep, 4 episodes in a row, releasing on March 29th, April 12th, April 26th, and May 3rd, 2008. The titles are Competition, The Invisible Hand, Catalysts, and Reaction. When Norman Osborn got in the business of creating supervillains for the big man, he had Otto lead the experiments. He turns Flint Marko into the Sandman and Alex O'Hearn into the Rhino. In Episode 7, Dr. Octopus, or Otto Octavius right now, is at Oscorp and sees the Green Goblin steal a glider. And now we get to Episode 8, the origin story of Dr. Octopus. Octavius conveys to his boss his concerns that Spider-Man may track Sandman and Rhino back to Oscorp, and particularly to himself. Osborn starts berating and belittling the overly timid and shy doctor, who pictures himself standing up to his verbally abusive employer. However, he doesn't have the nerve to act on his desire. Osborn then orders him to keep running his experiments like a good Dr. Octopus. Octavius timidly asks him not to call him that. After Osborn leaves, Octavius resumes his work. He takes the safety key off and steps inside this experimentation chamber. While he's adjusting some machines with his mechanical arms, a shadowy figure, the Green Goblin, approaches the console and puts the safety key back on and activates the generator. Octavius cries for help, claiming he's been good. The radiation fuses his mechanical arms with his spinal column, and he yells in anguish. When Otto awakens, he attacks Norman Osborn and Spider-Man, thinking the two tried to kill him for his past actions with Sandman and Rhino. He fights Spider-Man until the low battery for his mechanical arms goes off, and he leaves in a hurry. There's a power pack that has unlimited power for his arms Otto goes after, but Spider-Man steals it right from under him, leading to a chase across the city and a fight on Coney Island, as Spider-Man tries to wear Otto out until his arms lose the juice. Octopus knocks Spider-Man to the ground and grabs his new power pack. Spidey blinds him at that moment with his spider signal, takes the 2 batteries out of his hands, and, with his mechanical arms dead, so to say, he swings Otto around into a broken carousel, leaving him for the police. He was then in Spectacular Spider-Man Episode 11, Group Therapy, on May 31st, 2008, and yes, this is the iconic Sinister Six vs. Symbiote Spider-Man episode. The episode all opens with a giant prison break, all thanks to Dr. Octopus's relationship with Max Dillon, Electro. He breaks out with the Enforcers, Vulture, Rhino, and Sandman. He gets his metal arms reattached too. Powered by Electro's electricity now, no need for a power pack. The Sinister Six here is made up of Dr. Octopus, Electro, Sandman, Rhino, Shocker, and the Vulture. They stage a rampage in Times Square to draw Spider-Man out, and they beat him up bad, forcing Spider-Man to hide/retreat into the sewers. Now, there's a moment where Aunt May stands in between the Six and Spider-Man, where Otto calmly waits for Spidey to defuse the situation. Anyway, the Six take hostages and fight Spider-Man dead in Central Park. Doc gets electrocuted accidentally by Electro and sandblasted by the Sandman. In the fight between symbiote Spider-Man and the Sinister Six, Dr. Octopus remains mainly in the sidelines waiting for Spider-Man to wear himself out. After his allies have been defeated, Doc Ock advances, but he is unaware that Spider-Man was being controlled by the alien suit, and he notices that the suit can regenerate. He expresses his interest in studying the suit and declares he will peel it away from the web slinger, but Dr. Octopus is swiftly knocked out. Little does he know how close Spider-Man was from impaling him with his own mechanical arm, if Captain Stacy didn't interfere. Next for him came Amazing Spider-Man Family, Issue 1. It's a look at Marvel Apes Dr. Octopus named Doc Ock, and it's a moment in the Marvel Apes universe like in Issue 33. Spider-Man Family Volume 2, Issue 9 came next. Dr. Octopus is on a rampage and accidentally releases the Hulk after grabbing Bruce Banner, and he gets smashed for it. Marvel Apes Issues 1 and 2. In here, we learn about Otto Octavius was an orangutan who operated as Dr. Octopus. He was killed by the Ape Vengers for refusing to reform. He was in Marvel 1985, Issue 6. It's a cameo appearance, but he gets one of his metal tentacles cut in half by Captain America's shield. He was in Marvel Adventures Spider-Man 45, January 2009. The story is about Dr. Octopus committing a bank robbery and Spider-Man getting involved, and afterwards the Daily Bugle gets the story from witnesses and Octavius himself. Spider-Man easily knocks Ock out, and he's in jail. He was in Amazing Spider-Man issue 587. For a flashback, it's revealed in one panel that during a bank robbery by Doc Ock, Spider-Man saved the prison guard's life. He was in Marvel Adventures Spider-Man issue 50, coming out June 2009. In this landmark 50th issue, the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, creates a breakout of 6 supervillains, but the Jester gets knocked out by the Rhino, so now they're the Sinister Six, made up of Goblin, Doc Ock, Electro, Hydro Man, Scorpion, and the Rhino. But the Green Goblin is the leader, not Doc Ock now, and this leads to the two arguing a lot about it. Spider-Man tricks Electro into electrocuting Hydro Man's blown-up water body, which the villains left standing on top of, and they all get electrocuted and knocked out. Next for Ock was his return in the cartoon The Spectacular Spider-Man, episodes 16 and 17, titled Reinforcement and Sheer Strength, premiering June 29th and July 6th, 2009. These were also the Christmas and New Year's themed episodes of the show. In episode 16, a new figure calling himself the Master Planner tries to put together the Sinister Seven, but while having Kraven the Hunter break Electro out of Ravencroft, Dr. Octopus refuses to go with him, hoping to stay in Ravencroft to get healthy and stay away from the chaos as Dr. Octopus. But Christmas morning, Ock's metal tentacles break into Ravencroft and grab Octavius, taking him away. The next episode, episode 17, opens up with Dr. Octopus back in action, and it's revealed, despite what it looked like last episode, that he was the Master Planner. He's working now with the Vulture, the Tinkerer, and Electro to take control of every computer in the city, as well as unlimited surveillance by connecting Octopus's neurotransmitter microchip with the computer networks. Ock wants access to everything, though, to ultimately rule the world, and to do that, he kidnaps Gwen Stacy to blackmail George Stacy to give him access to the homeland. Spider-Man, going after Gwen, finds the Master Planner's lair, defeats Electro, and battles Dr. Octopus, destroying his server that filters the signals, making Dr. Octopus's connection too much to bear. He cuts off the connection and recoils to an escape pod. He bids Spider-Man goodbye after activating the self-destruction sequence for his old lab. Ending on July 29th, 2009, he was in the video game Spider-Man Toxic City. He was just the boss fight there. Dr. Octopus was the villain of Amazing Spider-Man issue 600, coming out September 2009. The issue opens with a flashback moments of when Dr. Octopus got hit in the head over his history, learning from a doctor that due to this, it's left him terminally ill and with only a year left to live. So now his plans have drastically changed. He modified himself to be mentally connected to his own army of Autobots, and adding 4 more arms to his harness. His goal then became to use his abilities to take over the utilities of New York City and turn it into a paradise under his control, though his mind's subconsciousnness also targeted Spider-Man and disrupted the wedding plans of his ex, Aunt May. Later, well, quote-unquote ex, you get what I mean. Later, following Octavius' signal and after freeing the Aunt May and J. Jameson, Spider-Man leaves it to the Human Torch They get the hostages outside while he faces down Dr. Octopus alone. Despite Octopus's tentacles and mini-drones, Spider-Man distracts him by forcing him to hold up a column while he takes Dr. Octopus's neural device and uses it to disable his control of his tentacles. He then uses that to undo the damage that Dr. Octopus caused, but Dr. Octopus had his mini-drones cover Spider-Man, and though Johnny Storm burns them off of him, Dr. Octopus had escaped in the confusion. He was in Marvel Zombies Return, Issue 1. In here, Zombie Spider-Man fights the Sinister Six, turning everyone into a zombie, and Dr. Octopus, only half of his human body still connected. He was in Spectacular Spider-Man episode 21 on October 7th, 2009, called Accomplices. He didn't have much to do. He was in a bidding war for Rhino specs to create more people like the Rhino, but he lost, so he manipulates the Rhino to go after the device to destroy it. Then he was in episode 23, Gangland, premiering October 21st, 2009. In this episode, it's Valentine's Day, and there's a setup meeting between Doc Ock, Tombstone, and Silvermane as to who will be the kingpin of crime in New York now. Things go wrong, leading to a fight between the three villains. Anyway, Dr. Octopus destroys Silvermane's armor, and after Spider-Man deactivated Silvermane's power suit, then Spidey and Doc Ock fight, leading to them down in the sewers where Spider-Man knocks Doc Ock by punching him in the head and removing the power supply from his tentacles harness. And that was Dr. Octopus's last appearance in the Spectacular Spider-Man. He was in Deadpool issue 900, coming out December 2009. In this issue, Deadpool beats Doc Ock in ping pong. A version of Dr. Octopus from the 1602 Marvel Universe was created next, and he was named Victor Octavius. In this world, he tried to cure himself of the bubonic plague. He used the blood of an octopi to try and cure him, turning him into a giant octopi mutant monster. He learned of the spider from Osborn and fights Spider-Man, uses his blood to try and gain a cure. By the time it happens though, he's gone mad enough to figure himself as above all of mankind. Eventually he gets stepped on by someone giant and dies. He was in Amazing Spider-Man Digital Issue 16 as an Easter egg. He was also just an Easter egg cameo in Spider-Ham 25th Anniversary Special. On September 1st, 2010, he was in the game Ultimate Spider-Man Total Mayhem. Dr. Octopus was one of the villains captured in Triskelion, who escaped after a breakout. Spider-Man saw Otto's tentacles after defeating Venom on top of a subway train. He got through Dr. Octopus's lair, avoided all of his traps, and finally got to him after a runaway chase against lasers. Spider-Man avoided Dr. Octopus's attacks and weakened his tentacles, knocking Otto down and made him powerless. He was then put into S.H.I.E.L.D. custody once more, presumably. And then, my favorite Spider-Man video game, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, came out on September 7th, 2010, and this game made another version of Dr. Octopus from the year 2099. This character is named Serena Patel, and she was voiced by Tara Strong. She became the head of Alchemax's Shadow Division, obtaining a position of authority within the company after being inspired by Otto Octavius' exploits and learning that he apparently killed the Spider-Man of the Heroic Age. She made a new harness with 6 arms instead of 4 and declared herself the new Dr. Octopus. When pieces of the Tablet of Order and Chaos appeared in the 2099 dimension, she manipulated Scorpion 2099 to go after them for her. She may have also built Hobgoblin 2099 for the same reason. In the level, Spider-Man 2099 finds her and shuts down her machine, taking down her monster experiments in the progress. Dr. Octopus was in Marvel Adventures Spider-Man Volume 2, Issue 6. Dr. Octopus breaks into a showing of new mechanical arms. Otto claims they stole his research. So Peter changes into Spider-Man and fights Otto, with some help from Emma Frost in this universe, who calls herself the Silencer. Next was Web of Spider-Man Volume 2, Issue 12. It's another retelling of Otto Octavius' great origin. The biggest change is in the present day, he breaks out of prison and gets revenge on 2 bullies who were in jail with him. He was in Amazing Spider-Man 642, 643, 645, and 646. Dr. Octopus's new plan is to kidnap the newborn baby of Lily Hollister, and he's gathered a huge group of supervillains to do so. He's doing this because the newborn has pure goblin serum in his veins, which Dr. Octopus thinks that it will help cure his crippling illness. Long story short, the lizard eventually gets his hands on the baby from everyone, and Spider-Man and Octopus go after the lizard, but Otto lashes out at Spider-Man, so Spidey grabs all of his tentacles and body slams him into a wall, escaping with the newborn. He was in Marvel What The episode 16, titled A Very Merry Spidey Day, premiering on December 22nd, 2010. It was an Easter egg. Next came Amazing Spider-Man issue 648 and 653. In issue 648, Spider-Man and the Avengers fight Dr. Octopus's Macro Octobot army. During that time, Autobot assembled another version of the Sinister Six consisting of Chameleon, Electro, Mysterio, Rhino, and Sandman, in a plot to slip the Macro Octobot army into a military base and detonate them. After his defeat, Dr. Octopus acknowledges Spider-Man's intellect and no longer considers him as a foolish child he had believed him to be. And then in issue 653, during Alistair Smythe's new plot, Dr. Octopus was observing these occurrences with the remote Octobot and uses the Octobot to assist the astronauts on board as part of his unknown plans. On April 29th, 2011, the internet game Marvel's Superhero Squad Online came out with Dr. Octopus as a boss for, I think, 2 levels, and later, you were also able to play as him. Deadpool Team Up issue 883. Deadpool calls Doc Ock for work, and he declines. He was in an Invincible Iron Man 501 to 503. This story opens with a flashback. Otto Octavius and Tony Stark meet for the first time at the Technology of the Future meeting. Octavius and Stark debate each other at a bar. Octavius argues in favor of catering to the military-industrial complex, and Stark argues for the pursuit of ideas and speculation. In the present, Octavius reveals that he is dying from brain damage. He challenges Stark to fix him or admit that he cannot solve the problem. If he doesn't, Ock will detonate a bomb. Dr. Octopus starts the countdown timer on a nuclear device, and Iron Man struggles to disarm it. With only 30 seconds left, Stark urgently and genuinely begs for Otto. Finally satisfied, Dr. Octopus reveals that he lied and the device isn't really a bomb, but Tony Stark still can't cure Otto. Dr. Octopus replays a video, though, of Stark begging. Here's an Amazing Spider-Man issue 659 and 66D. During this story, Dr. Octopus reveals the new Sinister Six to the world. During a fight between the Six and the Future Foundation, it's discovered that Mysterio and the Chameleon are the only real rogues here. Meanwhile, Dr. Octopus and the others infiltrate the Baxter Building. Dr. Octopus's plan involves using Baxter Building technology. He was in Avengers Academy issue 14. Again, the Sinister Six are invading a place, Avengers Academy, thanks to the Chameleon disguising himself as Tigress. Dr. Octopus does this to steal some more equipment, declaring that this is going to be his biggest plan ever. He was in The Incredible Hulk's Annual 1. It's an Easter egg appearance with Dr. Octopus fighting Invisible Woman in the streets. The next thing to come in Ock's mythos was the story The Death of Ultimate Spider-Man, specifically in Ultimate Spider-Man issues 156 and 157. Dr. Octopus and the rest of Norman Osborn's Sinister Six, Kraven, Vulture, Sandman, and Electro, escaped the Triskelion and hide out at one of Norman's houses. Otto Octavius objects to Norman Osborn's plan, and although he is grateful that Norman freed him from prison, declares that he has no grudge against Peter Parker and wants to continue his career as a scientist, and that the two should be proud that they created Spider-Man together. Norman transforms and hurls Octavius out of a window. Octavius uses his ability to control metal to form his octopus arms out of any and all metallic objects in the area. Norman leaps after him, stating that Octavius is a fool for believing that he has anything to do with the creation of Spider-Man, and then he overpowers Octavius and deals a fatal blow to him, killing him, and then flees from the scene. Yeah, that was the death of Ultimate Dr. Octopus. In October 2011, Dr. Octopus returned in the Sinister Six in the Marvel Adventures series in Marvel Adventures Spider-Man Volume 2, Issue 17. Doc Ock and his teammates were going to pretend to be salespeople, then rob the bank once inside. Spider-Man confronts them out in the streets, just coincidentally. Spider-Man stops Octavius by smashing him in between a truck and a building. Harsh. Otto Octavius was in the video game Spider-Man Edge of Time in the same month on October 4th, 2011. Here, he was voiced by Dave B. Mitchell. Otto Octavius was a physicist working at the Atomic Research Center until he was recruited by Walker Sloan into Alchemax. There, he became a mentor to geneticist Peter Parker. Despite not being present for the explosion that turned Earth TRN-579 counterpart into a criminal, Otto still became Dr. Octopus and led the Sinister Six, returning to civilian life after they disbanded. In the game, he helped Sloan recreate his time machine, while reluctant to help after learning his true plan involved using anti-venom to kill Spider-Man, and that the latter had brought backup. This all led to him, Anti-Venom, and Sloan accidentally merging into Atrocity. Atrocity had 4 giant metal arms that could travel through dimensions and appear randomly in the game. At the very end, you knock him back into the time machine portal and he disappears from existence. He was next in Vengeance, issues 2 and 3 the next month. In here, Doc Ock gets threatened by the Young Masters in his secret lair, and the Teen Brigade quote-unquote save him. The Amazing Spider-Man issue 676. This whole story is the Sinister Six versus Intelligentsia. At their secret base, the Sinister Six built Dr. Octopus armor to allow him to move. Shortly after, the Chameleon, one of their members who has infiltrated the Intelligentsia, informs Doc Ock that the weapon created by the group is now ready. So the Sinister Six attack Intelligentsia, and Ock destroys MODOK, going up against him one-on-one. The Six destroy Cannon Zero, a huge anti-gravity device, and when Mysterio and Sandman ask Doc Ock why they had to go to the trouble of saving the world from other supervillains, Ock replies that they couldn't allow the Intelligentsia to take over the world because they will soon conquer it. Okay, next our Dr. Octopus was in the Marvel Avengers Alliance game releasing on March 1st, 2012. He was there, just as a character. Ultimate Spider-Man Episode 1 premiered on April 1st, 2012, and so did Episode 2. Both had a new modern-day comic look to Doc Ock. The episodes are titled Great Power, Great Responsibility, and Tom Kenny did Doc's voice in the show. In these episodes, since Norman Osborn wants to study Spider-Man, Otto hires the Frightful Four to bring the webhead to him. While doing so, he continues to take surveillance photos of Spider-Man. On April 15th, Episode 4 came out. It was titled Venom. In this episode, Dr. Octavius sends an Autobot to get a sample of Spider-Man's DNA. After a miniature Autobot brings him the sample, he isolates the deadliest aspects of the DNA, and afterwards it turns into a gooey creature, which is later called a symbiote. He believes it to be an abomination and monstrous, giving it the name Venom. The symbiote escapes, but later Norman has Otto work on creating a more powerful one, and he says he'll dedicate his life's work to it. Then, Ultimate Spider-Man Episode 6 came out on April 29th, 2012. It was titled Why I Hate the Gym. Dr. Octopus and Taskmaster study Spider-Man together. After Taskmaster fails capturing/finding Spider-Man in Midtown School, Otto throws a tantrum. He was in Amazing Spider-Man issues 680 and 681. Dr. Octopus has sent Octobots to a space station to steal data from it. Then, he uses them to destroy the station. There's also a moment where the Octobots take over the crew's minds, turning them into Octobot zombies. On May 13th, 2012, Ultimate Spider-Man Episode 8 came out, called Back in Black. There's a new Spider-Man, all in black. Otto sends Dragon Man to attack and test him. Later, Otto sees that this new Spidey is Harry Osborn in the Venom symbiote, and Otto keeps this a secret from Norman. Next came Doc Ock's biggest plan yet in Amazing Spider-Man issues 682 to 687. It was titled Ends of the Earth. Otto Octavius sets in motion a set of events, starting with the announcement to offer the world a chance to stop global warming. At the Mediterranean, the Avengers attack the Sinister Six, but get defeated by them all. Specifically, Dr. Octopus controls Spider-Man's suit with his thoughts, shutting the hero down. Octavius then asks for the world's help in capturing Spider-Man, as he's trying to stop his grand plan to help everyone. And they believe him since he seemingly wants to save the Earth before he dies. Dr. Octopus is in his base in Guatemala, but Octavius used the mind-controlled Avengers now as his new Sinister Six. Spider-Man, Silver Sable, and Black Widow managed to defeat the Avengers, then Spidey and Sable headed to Octavius' underwater base. Spider-Man alone fights Dr. Octopus to stop him from activating his Octobot lenses that are orbiting the Earth. If he activates them, the world would basically be lit on fire. Spider-Man then fights Ock, breaks his mechanical arms and equipment. He even saves Otto's life, not allowing him to die even after all of this. On June 1st, 2012, he was in Marvel Superheroes What The, Episode 23, Howard the Duck's Silver Anniversary. Otto's part in here is he's playing cards with MODOK, Gremlin, and others, talking about how bad the Howard the Duck live-action movie was 25 years ago. On June 24th, 2012, he premiered in Ultimate Spider-Man Episode 11 and Episode 12 on July 1st. The episodes are called Venomous and Me Time. In the episode Venomous, Norman finds out Harry was Venom and Otto lies, and that Otto lied to him, saying that he didn't know. He then is given a blood sample of Harry's to study. Dr. Octavius hired Whirlwind to bring him Spider-Man episode 12. Whirlwind fails, so he decides that in order to find out about Spider-Man, he must capture him. He then loads the data before Norman makes contact with him again. Norman angrily accuses Otto of wasting his time, squandering his money, and for trying his patience, and decides to pull the plug on the science project of Dr. Octavius's and tells him that he'll blow the lab up. He chastises Otto about him being a shut-in scientist who can't wipe his own mouth, but then believes that Dr. Octavius's tentacles will come in handy and tells Doc Ock that at sundown, if he doesn't have results, then he's off the assignment permanently before ending the contract. Dr. Octavius angrily destroys the screen and swears that Norman will see that he will capture Spider-Man. Ock finds Spider-Man in an amusement park and the two fight. It's a long fight, which the two are meeting for the first time here face to face. Otto then shocks Spidey into unconsciousness. He brings Spidey back to his lab and informs Norman Osborn. He says that he wants to find out what makes Spidey tick, but to do so he must kill him. Spider-Man manages to defeat Dr. Octopus. Norman then tells Dr. Octavius that it is the last time that he's failed and that he can't have Spider-Man and S.H.I.E.L.D. tracing him back to Oscorp. He then blows up the lab while telling Dr. Octavius that he's fired. Spider-Man finds Dr. Octopus drowning and saves him by pushing him up to the surface, but then fainting just afterwards. It is then mentioned that Dr. Octavius was never found. On July 26, 2012, he was in Marvel Superheroes What The, episode 24, The Amazing Spider Date. It's an end credit scene where Doc Ock's making out with Aunt May. He was in Avenging Spider-Man issue 8. It's an epilogue to the Ends of the Earth story. Otto is locked up tight in the raft, dying, and his satellites have all been shut down. Spider-Man tells him on his deathbed that his legacy is nothing. He was in Space Punisher issues 1 and 2. Well, a version of Doc Ock, as we see alien versions of some villains, with Dr. Octopus here having 8 octopus tentacles as legs. He was then in Ultimate Spider-Man episode 22, The Iron Octopus, released September 30th, 2012. Calling himself Dr. Octopus officially now, Otto returns and takes control of Iron Man's armors in a revenge plot to destroy Norman Osborn. At Oscorp Tower, he grabs Harry as a hostage, but Norman explains to Otto he built the suit he's in to save his life after a lab accident. Otto says the suit was just to make him a puppet. Spider-Man in the Iron Spider suit saves their lives and fights Otto, not believing Otto when he tells Spider-Man that he and Osborn were tracking Spidey together. Then Iron Man shows up, and even with Otto having an arc reactor in his new suit, Iron Spider punches Ock with a broken reactor across the skyline. He gets away still because the last scene shows us that Norman Osborn saved Otto and captured him. Ultimate Spider-Man episode 25 was next, coming out on October 28th, 2012. It was titled Revealed. Dr. Octopus is shown to have lost his hair and sports new goggles and has been put in a green bubble. He is put into an underground lab under Oscorp by Norman. He kidnaps Spider-Man, takes his DNA, and explains how he created the Venom symbiote. Spider-Man gets out and beats Ock, but he secretly recovers when Norman Osborn shows up and tells Spider-Man he wants to replicate his powers to make his own army to take down S.H.I.E.L.D. and Stark. Otto then injects Norman with a brand new spider serum, turning him into the ultimate Green Goblin. He did this to control Osborn, and he explains that Oscorp Tech created Spider-Man. Otto tries to control Ultimate Goblin, but it backfires and Goblin takes off the shock collar and throws Ock around and destroys his Octobot armor, apparently leaving him for dead. In December 2012, The Amazing Spider-Man issues 698 to 700 came out. The story, Dying Wish. Using a brain-swapping Octobot, Otto Octavius transplanted his mind into the body of his nemesis, Spider-Man. He retained all of Peter's memories and thus was able to fool all of Peter's family and friends. Peter's mind, meanwhile, was placed into Octavius's dying body. Even trapped in Ock's dying body, Peter manages to control one of Octobots to get Hydro Man, Trapster, and Scorpion to break him out of the raft. Hearing this, Otto in Peter's body gets all of Peter's friends and family into a safe room in Stark Tower. Peter, in Ock's body, puts together that he, like what Otto did, should be able to see all of Otto's memories, and he does, figuring out how this mind switch was pulled off. So as Otto, Peter distances the rest of the Avengers with giant Octobots attacking the world, and even with his mind changing to be more like Otto's, like thinking about releasing the lizard from the raft, he attacks Stark Tower where Spider-Man's body is. Both enemies battled until both fell from Stark Tower into the ground, fatally wounding Peter in Otto's body. When Peter tried to use the brain-swapping Octobot, Otto revealed that he was using a carbonadium helmet, making his brain totally inaccessible for changing brains. Otto declared his final victory against Parker by giving him a lethal punch, which caused Dr. Octopus to give his last breaths. They discover that the Octobot managed to connect their minds, although it could not swap them, and Peter focused Otto to relive his most suffering experiences and memories as Spider-Man, making him realize that with great power comes great responsibility. Otto told Peter he did not want this, but they could not change the bodies back. Finally, Otto promised Peter to continue his legacy built as Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Otto Octavius, after Peter took one last breath, committed to being the superior Spider-Man. Let's talk about Avenging Spider-Man issue 15.1 next. This issue is like a sequel to a prequel to the Superior Spider-Man series in the aftermath of the Dying Wish story. This story happens the next day as Otto goes to one of his old layers for equipment to upgrade the Spidey suit. Doing so alerts him to the lab's defensive systems. While fighting, a video message of Dr. Octopus begins to play, making him see how arrogant he was despite the fact that he always lost to Spider-Man. When he destroys the lab's defenses, he decides to do better than his old self. The last page has Otto swinging through the city as the Superior Spider-Man officially. Next was Ultimate Spider-Man episode 27, The Lizard, released January 21st, 2013. The episode starts out with Doc Ock going to one of his old labs to grab something, but Spider-Man's team drives him away. It's revealed he was after 4 vials of animal serum. Dr. Connors takes the lizard one and it grows back his missing arm, but then he turns into a giant lizard himself. As the lizard, he finds Doc Ock and tells him to fix the formula and give it to millions to help humanity. He laughs at that and Lizard attacks Ock. Spider gets in the middle of it and Otto gets away. He was next in Ultimate Spider-Man episode 32 on February 17th, 2013. It was called The Sinister Six, with the famous supervillain group making their first appearance in the series. In the episode, it was made up of Dr. Octopus, Lizard, Electro, Rhino, Kraven, and the Beetle. In the episode, Doc Ock kidnaps Dr. Connors and turns him into the Lizard again to make his Sinister Six. They chase Spider-Man and eventually fight the hero on his team on the Liberty Island. The end has Lizard defeat Ock after removing his shock collar, and Otto goes to S.H.I.E.L.D. prison. And of course, during the episode, Spider-Man rips out all of Otto's mechanical arms. The series, The Superior Spider-Man, started in 2013, with Volume 1 having issues 1 through 5. The series opens up with the new Sinister Syndicate, calling themselves the new Sinister Six, robbing a bank. Superior Spider-Man shows up and fights them, especially since they stole his villain team name. Speed Demon punches him hundreds of times, making Otto mad and swing away. A razor ring boomerangs back and almost hits a cop. SS leaps in, hurting himself, saving the guy, and Boomerang gets close to Spidey, puts a razor ring to his throat. Otto's suit, though, has claws now and scratches Boomerang, causing him to get freaked, and they all run away, except the living brain robot that got malfunctioned by Shocker and Beetle 2's gauntlet blasts during the fight. As Peter, Otto works on the living brain at Horizon Labs and studies on the new Sinister Six. He accepts a date later with Mary Jane, and he acts strange, like drinking and listening in on Boomerang's plan. He can do this because when he scratched Boomerang, he put nanobots inside of his system. And he's also listening to their plan and what they're going to do instead of going after them, even though he knows where they are. Which really surprises Mary Jane. Anyway, the Sinister Syndicate now attacks in 10 seconds in and out, but Superior Spider-Man prepared and created a giant spider's web, trapping them all inside in 9 seconds, before he prepared the outside of Horizon Labs to combat the rogues, almost killing Speed Demon and disabling Shocker, Overdrive, and Beetle's 2's costumes. It's just Otto and Boomerang now, almost killing the rogue until something unknown holds him back. That something was Peter Parker, still hanging around his body as things in his life change for the better. He's getting close to MJ again, J. Jonah Jameson respects him, and more. Otto creates a new Octobot and has the living brain make 999 more for him to be able to survey the whole city at once, while the Peter Parker side of Superior Spider-Man can have a life. One night, an attack happens at MJ's club, The Wake, now named simply MJ's, where the little vulture henchman still is safe. Spider-Man saves MJ from falling by creating a web net, but, thinking logically, breaks things off with her. Even Peter's impressed with Otto's character strength with this. Then, while web-slinging, he spots a spider signal above Police HQ in the sky. He destroys it, since it's basically a beacon for supervillains to trap him with, manipulating Jameson into making this whole experience a test for Superior Spider-Man to pass. He then uses the police lab. Otto tracks the Vulture down and offers him millions of dollars to retire to give up on crime, but Vulture thinks it's a joke and has his minions fight SS. Otto hits back and finds out these minions are actual, like, elementary school kids. Reminding him of his abusive father, Octavius snaps and jumps at Toombs. Otto sees Vulture as a monster now and threatens him, saying he's always gone easy on the old man, even with arms that trade blows with the Hulk. He stops Vulture by changing his mask's eyes to polarizing black and blinding Adrian with the spider signal, sending him/launching him into the signal, cutting and electrocuting the villain to the brim of death. Well, now things are going great for Superior Spider-Man. He's stopping 3 times more crimes, and some supervillains even surrender to him, and he directs fire departments to fires if they can take care of it. As Peter, he even spends time with Aunt May more, one day deciding to work on making metal limbs people can easily control, almost eliminating these injuries Aunt May gets altogether. While working on it, Otto remembers that Peter never got his doctorate, and changes gears to get one automatically. His physics professor is one of his old dumb classmates from years ago, though he meets a person named Anna, a tutor who offers her services to him, and they get friendly. Of course, Otto doesn't really need tutelage. Okay, hero time. The sociopath Massacre has escaped Ravencroft and committed a mass shooting at a fast food joint. Spidey uses his lab neighbor, Uatu, to make an alert device, tracking Massacre down the second he shows up. The villain is planning to shoot up Grand Central Station, but first, SS tracks down hostages Massacre has kidnapped for a backup plan, frees them, and calls the cops to Grand Central for help. Spider-Man gets in through the unbombed tripped windows and saves as many as he can before he knocks Massacre down and takes his gun. He threatens Massacre, this madman, with death. After flattening his hand, Massacre starts crying, feeling emotions again. Peter Parker mentions that this was why he does the hero stuff, to deliver hope to everyone, but Otto decides that Massacre will always be a killer on the inside and shoots him dead. Oh yeah, and he also gets back at the head of a Fizzy-Cola, who is threatened by Massacre to give him $12 million if he wore her company's shirt while doing the shooting, and she didn't do anything to try and stop him. Now, Superior Spider-Man was also in Daredevil 2011, issues 21 and 22. Otto is at the courthouse and is told by the DA's assistant that Daredevil is unstable. He decides to physically quote-unquote help his old friend. He finds Matt Murdock in public and shouts for Daredevil to surrender. The two fight in an abandoned building, with Daredevil remarking on how silent and serious the webhead is today. Just then, Stiltman appears robbing a helicopter with new upgrades thanks to Dr. Octopus's technology. Well, the heroes wreck his armor, and Daredevil snaps Spidey's messed up shoulder back into place that he got during the fight. Dee leaves, still wondering what's up with Spider-Man. Octavius then met the X-Men in Avenging Spider-Man issue 16. A giant spider with human eyes attacks the city, and Superior Spider-Man shows up to fight it. Though the X-Men show up to take care of it, Otto saves Storm from a blast. The spider suddenly falls to the ground stunned. Spider-Man, or Superior Spider-Man, explains that the combination of his concussive hit to its head, a spider's sensitivity to changing pressure, and his last blow put it into a stunned state, with its large size delaying the reaction. Yep, he blows the X-Men away with his knowledge. The spider changes back into a young woman. He tussles with Wolverine after he touched him and actually beat Logan up, and then gets put in a headlock by the guy and has to charm his way out of Rachel Gray, reading his mind after Wolverine says something's up with Spider-Man today, since, well, Rachel Gray might have found out that he's Otto Octavius under the mask, not Peter Parker. Next came Journey into Mystery, issues 648 and 649. Lady Sif is battling monsters and is transported to Midgard and meets the Superior Spider-Man. Otto, well, he acts a lot more like Peter Parker in here than ever before, as he's just kind of flirting with her, and that's about it. He was in Alpha Big Time issues 1 through 3 and issue 5. Otto decides to give the hero Alpha a pep talk, and that's really it. Avengers Volume 5, issues 6 through 9. He was here working with the Avengers, trying to fit in like he was Peter. He was in Avenging Spider-Man, issue 17. The Substitute Fantastic Four have Superior Spider-Man babysit for them the future Foundation children. The last age, or page of this story, will make the reason he agrees to do this make sense. Soon, everyone's attacked by the Time Variance Authority, which claims that one of the Foundation's members will create something that will destroy time. It turns out it's one kid based on designs that he had made that Otto saw earlier, and then Superior Spider-Man threatens him to stop those plans. He does, and everything gets back in order and everyone leaves. The last page shows us that Octavius stole the Sandman from the Baxter building for something sinister. Now let's look at issue 18. Elektra returns to Earth to take revenge on Thor after the Ends of the Earth event. Superior Spider-Man tries to warn the Asgardian, but Thor just laughs it off. Electro has worked with AIM to turn him into an antimatter, making him a real threat to Thor, and Otto plans to stop this fight between the two godlike beings somehow. He works with Thor to restrain Electro and make a device to subdue the villain. The last page has Max Dillon in containment, right beside Sandman, waiting to see what Otto has planned. June 4th, 2013, Dr. Octopus was in the game Marvel Heroes. He's another boss there. Now let's look at the Superior Spider-Man issues 6 through 10. In issue 6, the villains Jester and Screwball have teamed up to make viral live videos pranking people in New York, humiliating them for people to view, while they gain access to their phones through their website to steal all their information. They pants Mary Jameson, and Otto feels personally against them since they're acting like bullies. Otto gets to them and gets laughed at after getting hit in the balls. Yeah, that sets him off to go ballistic on the two and literally beats them to a bloody pulp live. Next up, Superior Spider-Man gets an alert that a police evidence warehouse called the Boneyard is being broken into, and the culprit is the anti-villain Cardiac. He's stealing Otto Octavius' neuronic scanner. This device Otto invented was to develop his mind link to his tentacles. Learning this, Otto goes crazy and almost smashes Cardiac's face in, but his aim moves mysteriously since the Peter subconscious inside of him can move small parts of his body if he tries, and he misses the guy's face, gets blasted by Cardiac, and loses the guy. Before SS can find him again, the Avengers all called him to base and confront him about his recent attitude changes. They used brain scan to determine that he's not a Skrull or being mind controlled. However, Otto himself discovered a minor brain abnormality that would have revealed his condition, but no one else seems to notice it, so he takes notes of the results by himself. Anyway, thanks to a spider tracer, Superior Spider-Man trucks Cardiac back to his secret clinic, where he explains that the reason he took the scanner from the Boneyard was to save a little girl who was injured by Otto during Ends of the Earth. Otto built and knows all about the scanner and operates with Cardiac on the girl, saving her life. For thanks, Otto borrows the scanner for a bit. He uses that scanner to fight and erase the Peter Parker conscious from his brain permanently. In issue 10, Superior Spider-Man stops a gang war between the two villains, White Dragon and the Owl. Enjoying beating on owls, thinking back on the Owl-Octopus war, their thugs escaped the police with help by people wearing the Green Goblin insignia tattoos. During his dinner with Peter's family, Otto reveals that his progress at work, almost completing his doctorate. He then leaves for his date with Anna, where during their conversation she accidentally trips, causing Otto to catch the dry ice that almost fell over her. Thankful for saving her, Anna embraces and kisses Otto, but he's later warned by his patrol app about a fire. He sends the FDNY to trick a blaze purposefully set on MJ's nightclub, not arriving personally to save her. Next, we'll talk about Avenging Spider-Man number 19. Otto finds himself on a street with no idea how he got there, and after having strange visions, he is attacked by a monster, the Fear Worm. Meanwhile, the hero Sleepwalker fights Spider-Man by saying that he doesn't control his actions. The human side of Sleepwalker, called Richard Sheridan, explains that he has been infected with a parasite and that he is a prisoner of a nightmare. To end the nightmare, Otto lashes out and beats his father, or fake father, to death in the dream, revenge for his abuse on him growing up. Now, Avenging Spider-Man issues 20 and 21. Otto captures AIM agents and asks to speak to Maria Hill on the helicarrier. Wanting to free the chameleon, Otto uses his spider bots to de-energize the helicarrier, but at the same time it's attacked by agents who are themselves interested in the chameleon. Spider-Man rescues the rogue and knocks him down, then using a device to teleport him to his lair, he blames Russian agents for the chameleon's disappearance, but secretly he has captured the chameleon just like he did Electro. He was in Avengers 2013 issues 12 and 13. He's here helping the team, nothing special. Back to the cartoon show Ultimate Spider-Man, as Octopus was in episode 43, Venom Bomb, on July 21st, 2013. The story goes that the Goblin has freely unleashed Venom onto the city, so Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus team up to stop it. When Goblin finds out, he attacks Ock, but Spider-Man saves him. Doc Ock creates an antidote, the anti-Venom, and then when Goblin attacks him, he escapes. Daredevil 2011, issue 27. Daredevil called on Superior Spider-Man to protect one of his allies. Avenging Spider-Man issue 22. Superior Spider-Man is faced with a Mysterio fake who calls himself Mysterion. Initially, he believes he's his old accomplice in the Sinister Six, but when he finds out that he is just an imitator, he gets angry because he thinks this is an affront to Mysterio. But he is interrupted by the Punisher and later Hobgoblin and discovers that it is he, the Hobgoblin, who has been stealing criminal identities and selling them for some time. Anyway, to stop Punisher from killing Mysterion, he whips Punisher up and then captures Mysterion for his own plans that have been in play for a while with all the other old Sinister Six members. Superior Spider-Man was in Morbius the Living Vampire 2013 issues 6 and 7. Morbius goes to the Horizon Labs to cure himself, but there awaits the Superior Spider-Man and the two fight with Otto winning. But then SS decides to call a truce and help Morbius out in his adventure. Nova 2013 issue 7. Tonight, Nova accidentally bumps into Otto web-swinging, and he yells/tells the kid hero off. He does give him some hero advice, then leaves, being very happy about who he has become now. Otto's body was in Avengers 2013 issues 14 through 17. Alright, I'm just gonna say that Superior Spider-Man was again another team member. He was also in Infinity issue 3, and Uncanny Avengers issue 11, another team member and a non-speaking part. A+X 2012 issue 11. Cyclops and the Superior Spider-Man face off on a train. The end. Now let's look at Mighty Avengers Volume 2, issues 1 through 5. Really quick, Spider-Man stops the Rogue Plunderer, and then teams up with Luke Cage and Spectrum to fight part of the Black Order. And that's all. On October 3rd, 2013, Doc Ock was in the game Marvel Puzzle Quest, as just another character. On October 20th, 2013, the Ultimate Spider-Man episode 49 came out, called Second Chance Hero. In the episode, Dr. Octopus has finished Osborn's plans to create a Spider Soldier army, and he sends one to attack Norman Osborn, who is now the Iron Patriot. Spider-Man and Norman Osborn, now called the Iron Patriot, stop his plan. 2 days later, on October 22nd, 2013, Dr. Octopus was a boss and a playable character you could also play as a Superior Spider-Man as well in the video game LEGO Marvel Superheroes. He was voiced in here by D. Bradley Baker. In Level 2, Dr. Octopus breaks into the Baxter Building to steal a cosmic brick, but Mr. Fantastic, Captain America, and eventually Spider-Man all chase the villain across the rooftops and have an epic boss fight at Times Square, where they rip off all of his metal arms, or metal tentacles, whatever you want to call them here, and leave him for the cops. At the end of the game, he's freed to help the heroes fight Galactus, and then, in one bonus mission, he is summoned back to the Daily Bugle to clean up the place after in Level 2 he just ran straight through the building, messing it up. So yes, it is a LEGO game, so you can play as Dr. Octopus here. When he starts running, his tentacles lift him up super high. He gets to be the tallest character in the whole game then. He has a type of spider sense and can grab special objects with his tentacles. When he drives or double jumps, his extra arms retract back into their harness. And you also get his Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon look for Octopus as well in the game. This look for Ock is unlocked in the bonus level doing free play. And I added this picture so you could see what he looks like running. Definitely, I'm not forgetting, the game also has the Superior Spider-Man to play as. He's unlocked after skydiving off the Statue of Liberty and falling in the right place. He has the same powers as Spider-Man, just a different costume. You can also see the 4 mechanical arms on his back. It was very cool. Now, Otto's main appearances are in Superior Spider-Man issues 11 through 13. The time has come for Alistair Smythe's execution, and Superior Spider-Man is asked by Mayor Jameson to make sure it all runs smoothly. Of course, Smythe tries to break out, but Otto plans for it all, with his Spider-Bots combating the mini Spider Slayers he brought with him. The Ultimate Spider Slayer even sends his robots to heal and upgrade Superior Spider-Man's previous enemies with new costumes. But in the end, Otto kills Smythe, even revealing to him that he is really Otto Octavius, after Smythe tried to swap brains with Spidey. The end has Otto blackmail Mayor Jameson and give him the raft that he uses as a headquarters now. And then came Superior Spider-Man issues 14 through 16. Issue 14 has Superior Spider-Man with a bunch of minions and Spider-Bots completely demolish Shadowland, forcing the Kingpin to flee and the current Hobgoblin to run away alone. Hobgoblin goes on a crime spree, being undetected from Otto's Spider-Bots until his luck runs out and Otto battles him in a brand new Superior Spider-Man costume. Which, yeah, first appeared in issue 14, but you get it. Hobgoblin, aka Phil Urich, runs to the Bugle where he works, but SS exposes him on live TV and captures him without anyone getting hurt. Next came Superior Team Up issues 1 through 4. And also, in between issues 2 and 3, Otto was in Scarlet Spider Volume 2 issue 20, which I'll also be talking about in order. Issue 1 has the Avengers question Superior Spider-Man's behavior again after going around beating up people like Cloak and Dagger and Moon Knight. When the Avengers confront Otto while Hyperion attacks, Superior Spider-Man reveals to the Avengers that Hyperion is possessed by the villain Carrion. Carrion has been jumping from hero to hero in order to conquer with a hero's body, which is why Spider-Man was attacking those other heroes. Spider-Man shoots Hyperion with the gun to stop Carrion, and it works. Though he has regained his trust in the Avengers, Spider-Man still does not see them as allies. He needs to have his own team, and it's revealed that Otto has captured several Sinister Six members in order to achieve whatever plan he is thinking of. In issue 2, the Scarlet Spider, Kane, shows up to check up on Spider-Man since he's been acting weirdly, and Otto remembers that Kane was the one who killed him back in the 90s, so he attacks the clone. Suddenly, Carrion and Jackal show up and the two Spider-Men lose the fight. They wake up, escape where they were being held by the Jackal, which is the Jackal's lab, and Kane puts Otto in his place, telling him to act like a hero. Issues 3 and 4 are very short. This character called Sylvia Prell is a student who is one of the Inhuman descendants. She is exposed to a Terrigen mist after it was unleashed upon Earth by Black Bolt. The manifestation of her electrical powers catches the attention of the power-hungry Superior Spider-Man. Well, in the end, she sacrifices herself to destroy an alien spaceship, making Superior Spidey proud. Okay, we're gonna now talk about Dr. Octopus in the cartoon Ultimate Spider-Man again, episode 51, premiering on November 3rd, 2013. It was titled The Return of the Sinister Six. In the episode, Dr. Octopus surprise attacks Spider-Man and the Iron Patriot. Dr. Octopus causes a prison break at the raft and gives his members armor upgrades. He can fly now in his new armor. Ock specifically goes after the Iron Patriot, Norman Osborn, and turns him back into the Goblin. He actually achieves his goal, but Goblin rips apart his armor after he transforms and just leaves Otto on the ground for the guards to grab later, I guess. 2 days later, Ock was in the short Lego Marvel Superheroes Maximum Overload movie, November 5th, 2013, or I guess it was a short series. Episodes 1 and 5 he was in. In the show, Loki watches Dr. Octopus attack a secret shield base and throws a non-frost, a snowball to enhance someone's special abilities. It hits Doc Ock, causing the villain's mechanical tentacles to become infinitely longer. Meanwhile, in New York City, Nick Fury gets Spider-Man to go to the shield base to stop Dr. Octopus. When he arrives, he finds Doc Ock already has taken out the shield agents there and has a beta burst missile. Spidey finds the Power Mad Octavius, who now calls himself an Overload, and defeats him when he tricks Doc Ock into clamping his tentacles down on power lines. In episode 5, Doc Ock fights Thor and loses. The Rogue was also in the cartoon show Hulk Agents of Smash, episode 14 on December 8th, 2013. The Venom Within was what the episode was called, and the plot is Octopus try to take over the Hulk family by venomizing them, but fails. Superior Spider-Man was in the series Superior Carnage, issues 2 through 5. In the story, the Wizard Claw and a new Superior Carnage attack City Hall, but Otto is waiting for them. When they fight, the Wizard finds out that Otto is Spider-Man now. He makes a deal to have the Wizard, who is dying, surrender to be able to see his son one last time. But Claw attacks Spider-Man, not realizing they're on the same side now, and Carnage, not being Cletus Cassidy, can't be controlled anymore. So they work together to blast the symbiote off this guy, and SS captures it, maybe to use it for later. He was in Superior Spider-Man issues 17 through 19. Horizon Labs is about to be bought out and turned into Liz Allen's company called Allen Chemicals. This has been started all by the slimeball Ty Stone, so Superior Spider-Man goes after him to stop him with a harsher tone, so to speak. But just at that time, the future Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2099, has come back in time to save Stone from SS, or else he will die, since Stone in 2013 is his grandfather, so Superior Spider-Man and 2099 Spidey fight each other. To fix the temporal event at Horizon Labs now, Superior Spider-Man tries to stop it, but manages to save everyone and contain the blast that destroyed Horizon Labs, so he halfway stopped it, leaving Spider-Man and Peter's Horizon job permanently to go their separate ways. And then we get to Superior Spider-Man issues 20 and 21. Issue 20 opens with Superior Spider-Man knocking the Black Cat out while she's robbing the city, leaving her web to a wall for the police and knocking out her tooth. In Otto/Peter's personal life, Otto presents his artificial limb creation to the board to conclude getting his degree, but fails since Professor Lames recognizes this as Otto Octavius' work, since the two went to school together, Otto being annoyed by him, and Lames accuses Peter of fraud. At the same time, Stunner has returned somehow and fights to kill Superior Spider-Man for the death of Otto Octavius. The irony. Octo-Spidey webs up this solid hologram of Stunner with his new superior web fluid and tracks the real one down. He then uses the hologram devices she was using to return, looking as he did in the early 90s, and gives her a closure. And also, using the hologram, convinces Lames to give Pete the degree. Then he was in an Indestructible Hulk special, Superior Spider-Man Team-Up special, and All New X-Men Special 1. Well, there's a Dr. Octopus from a different world who's appeared now, and this time, younger and healthier, who they have prisoner. Maybe a version of Aku jumped forward in time, and the X-Men, Superior Spider-Man and Bruce Banner, work to figure out why he's emitting gamma radiation. A Dr. Jude has been exposed to a radiation and explodes a plane Spidey and the X-Men team are on. He wears the metal tentacles to save them. Then he fights a robot version of Dr. Octopus, easily breaking it. And that's most of what he does. So now we're going to look at Superior Spider-Man Annual Number 1. The villain Blackout is back to prove he's the strongest ever and kidnaps Aunt May to draw Superior Spider-Man out. Well, he shouldn't have done that because SS beats him up bad, hangs him on a meat hook, and tortures him by burning him with radiation. He told Blackout to spread the word that Peter Parker is off limits, and the next day, Crook pickpockets Auto Peter, but realizing it's Peter Parker's wallet, runs to give it back. Here we go, back to Superior Spider-Man series with issues 22 to 25. Otto as Peter Parker has opened up his own laboratory called Parker Industries. Later, while going after the Crime Master, Agent Venom gets attacked by the Superior Spider-Man. Otto's still in the mindset that Venom's a threat. Agent Venom escapes him, so as plain old Peter Parker, Otto devises a trap to get the Venom symbiote off of Flash Thompson and contained, but when that happens, the symbiote breaks out automatically and latches onto Superior Spider-Man, creating Superior Venom. Superior Venom gets worse and worse, almost killing all the rogues sent to commit robberies for Roderick Kingsley. The Avengers come to confront Venom, or Superior Venom, and he almost kills them too. All is in havoc until Otto realizes what the symbiote is doing to him and fights it with unknown help from Peter Parker consciousness, surprisingly still alive after issue 9. Otto eventually gets it off of him and back onto Flash Thompson. When the symbiote is given back to Thompson, Otto tells the lie that it was the symbiote the whole time, making him act weird these past few months, and everyone believes him. And now we're going to look at the rest of the Superior Team-Up series, starting with Superior Spider-Man Team-Up, issues 5 through 7, the story that had been built up in the Avenging Spider-Man series. Today, Superior Spider-Man with his team, the Sandman, Chameleon, Electro, Mysterion, and Vulture, are calling themselves the Superior Six. They show up and stop the Wrecking Crew from causing chaos. Octavius has created a way to mind control the 6 villains all at once, which he takes out into the world and forces them to fight crime with him. The Superior Six go out and fight a new Masters of Evil. An explosion happens that destroys Otto's mind control over his 5 teammates. The 6 turn against him, torturing him. Well, Otto works with a new hero called Sun Girl to stop the 6 and turn things back to normal. And now, Team Up issue 8. In the story after the last issue, Otto decides to go to Avengers Tower and confess the truth about how the real Peter Parker is dead and he is Otto Octavius, but while heading there, he spots Namor the Submariner fighting Wakandians. He helps Namor and his mind is changed to keep his secret and keep on going. Now let's talk about Superior Spider-Man issue 26. Spider-Man is off probation from the Avengers, but when Iron Man and the team question him about deleting his previous brain scans they took of him, Otto leaves, quitting the team. He was in Avengers Volume 5, issue 24 Now, and issue 26, but he had small appearances. Now he was in A plus X issue 14. Superior Spider-Man and Magneto work together to try and free a young mutant kidnapped by AIM who killed his parents. They managed to beat MODOK and the other members of the AIM facility and save the young mutant. Then came a story called Inhumanity: Superior Spider-Man. After Adeland, the Inhuman city exploded and landed across the city. Terrigen mists went everywhere. A new man named Arthur is now willing to use his suit's power to try and save his wife from cancer. It would kill many people if he did so. Arthur was a man who lived by the rules in a world with no rules. Spider-Man stops Arthur, but then says that he will give his wife help from Dr. Elias Wortham. Superior Spider-Man was then Wolverine Volume 6, Issue 2. Superior Spider-Man basically inspires Wolverine to change himself if he really wants to see change in the world. Being a superhero is like being mad, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting change. He appeared in Superior Foes of Spider-Man, Issue 11. Otto Spider-Man appears in one panel, capturing the Grizzly. And now, Superior Team-Up issues 9 through 10 happen. It occurred at the same time as the last Superior Spider-Man story arc. SS brings Daredevil and the Punisher into Spider Island to look for Punisher's glider. Just then, Spider-Man's minions, well, fake minions, who have been infiltrated to his base, all attack the 3 heroes. Otto has to destroy his island's weapons by flooding the place to save Daredevil and the Punisher. He does and finds out that these guys are from Goblin Nation. The Green Goblin is back. Let's look at Superior Spider-Man Annual number 2. SS's small role here is to fight the Phil Urich, the Goblin Knight, and save Robbie Robertson's life. And he does so. Now for the Superior Spider-Man finale in Superior Spider-Man issues 27 to 30. Yes, Otto was not involved at all in issue 31. The city of Manhattan has come under siege from the Goblin Underground, and as Otto tries to figure out how the goblins are evading his spider tech, he also prepares to propose to his girlfriend, Anna Maria. Well, using facial recognition, Spider-Man tracks the Goblin King to his hideout, and Green Goblin reveals to him that he knows that Superior Spider-Man is really Otto Octavius. Just then, as it's revealed that Otto sent a hologram to the Goblin Lair, Spider Island 2 gets demolished by an invasion of goblins. Later, Green Goblin kidnaps Otto's old classmate Don Lamlaze, and Otto laughs it off since he obviously doesn't like the guy, but Goblin has another plan to control Superior Spider-Man's metal arms to attack itself. Seeing one about to stab Spider-Man through the back, Lamlaze dives into it, sacrificing himself to save Spidey. Then, following a Goblin, J. Jonah Jameson's new Spider Slayer army comes to capture Spider-Man, with Jameson not caring about being exposed for what he said about Smythe on Spider Island, but Goblin takes over the Slayers to kill Superior Spider-Man and Otto. With Spider-Man 2099's help, they all fight them off until SS leaves to find his girlfriend. Spider-Man was deceived by the villain Menace into going into the subway as she made him believe that Anna Maria was there. In the subway, he found himself with the decision to save a young child revealed to be Amy Chen. Otto hesitated, and there was a chance that by saving Amy, he would injure himself and fail to get back in search for Maria. The consciousness of Peter Parker revealed his survival by pushing Otto into saving the child, as there was no time for planning but just doing what was right. Otto realized that he had failed as a superior Spider-Man and decided Peter should take control of his body back as he could save Maria and stop the Green Goblin. Octavius arrived to what was left of Parker Industries and proceeded to erase his consciousness with the neurotic scanner and let Peter Parker live fully once again, but in doing so, sacrificed himself for the girl he loved and the man he hated. To finish off Superior Spider-Man is a story set in the past with Dr. Octopus and the Green Goblin actually teaming up in Superior Team-Up issues 11 and 12, the last issues of the series. One day, Dr. Octopus gets a note from Norman Osborn to meet up. At this moment, Norman was thought to be dead. The two villains decide to work together to defeat the Amazing Spider-Man. One night, while drinking, Otto says his goal is to become an ultimate scientist. Norman freaks out on him, saying his goal should be the destruction of Spider-Man. But Norman calms down. Crazy appears suddenly and disappears suddenly, as Otto says. They manage to make metal tentacles for Norman Osborn, making him an Octo-Goblin, with Otto part of his collab with the Green Goblin. But then, as seems things go back to normal. Well, thinking back to their argument, Norman decided to make Octavius as ruthless as him, by doing something very bad. He had Mary Alice's car run off the road and infected her with blood from a lethal virus, later telling Otto what he had done. Octavius lashes out at Norman, hitting him where the Goblin Glider stabbed him over and over again, trying to not feel hurt after what Osborn just did. But Mary Alice wakes up for a bit and Norman escapes, but with Oct barely saying anything last words to her. It's revealed that this is what he was trying to cure her for in the comic Spider-Man Unlimited 3. Norman goes to Norman Osborn's, or Otto goes to Norman Osborn's mansion they met and worked at, and tears it apart, demanding to hurt the Green Goblin, and to do that, he will be the one to defeat Spider-Man before Osborn. In the end, he actually did, either by stealing Spider-Man's body, or by sacrificing his life so Peter Parker's Spider-Man could defeat the Goblin Nation. After all of that, on May 2nd, 2014, in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie and video game, we saw Dr. Octopus's tentacles as an Easter egg. He was then in Avengers Disc Wars Episode 15, Castle Treasure Hunt, on July 9th, 2014. Doc Ock was a prisoner in the Raft, but then was captured by Loki in a disc. Doc Ock then fought Iron Man, but the Wasp distracted him enough for Iron Man to defeat him, rip off his tentacles, and capture him again. On August 31st, 2014, Doc Ock was in Ultimate Spider-Man episodes 53 and 54, called The Avenging Spider-Man Parts 1 and 2. These episodes start out with Spider-Man defeating Dr. Octopus on the New York Bridge, hitting him with his own tentacles. Otto was taken to the S.H.I.E.L.D. Tricarrier, but then Loki shows up and frees the villain, with the two teaming up. Doc Ock now has new Asgardian destroyer armor. Loki takes control of Spider-Man's body but doesn't unmask him and won't until Otto and him defeat the Avengers. Otto makes more Venom symbiote and Loki has to go take over monsters from the 9 realms. The two rogues then decide to fight the Avengers head-on. Ock decides to end Loki's partnership, which makes Loki remove the armor off of Dr. Octopus, turning him back into his normal crippled self. Dr. Octopus falls, but Spider-Man saves him and puts him on the ground. Dr. Octopus is then taken back to the S.H.I.E.L.D. Tricarrier. On September 10th, 2014, Ock was in the mobile game Spider-Man Unlimited. The game was a runner like Temple Run, and he was one of the Spider-Man villains you would run and kick stuff into. Then he was in Disney Infinity 2.0 on September 23rd, 2014. He makes a brief appearance in the opening cutscene of the Marvel Spider-Man playset, where he criticizes Green Goblin for attempting to clone Venom. He was in Ultimate Spider-Man episode 58 on September 28th, 2014. The episode was called The Vulture. The setup has the Vulture hunting down Doc Ock to find out who he really is. Doc reveals that Vulture asked Ock to turn him into this creature. To do so, Otto had to remove his memories, and he says the words "carry on, feeder" to control Vulture, have him attack Spider-Man and free him. Spidey brings the Vulture to his senses. Vulture then tries to kill Ock, but Spidey stops it, and Otto heads to holding once again. He then returned 2 episodes later in episode 60 on October 14th, 2014. The episode is called New Warriors. The New Warriors and Spider-Man accidentally release Ock and other rogues. They all fight, and Dr. Octopus is used for the Vulture to escape. Next came Superior Spider-Man issues 32 and 33. Also, this was in the Spider-Verse event on October 2014. Now, the whole Spider-Verse event with Superior Spider-Man happens in the moment where Otto disappeared when Horizon Labs exploded. During that moment, right before the Horizon Labs explosion, Superior Spider-Man was sent forward in time to the year 2099 to replace the Miguel O'Hara Spider-Man who was in 2013. As the days go by, Otto creates a device that allows him to hop through dimensions. In one, he finds the dead body of a Spider-Man who joined the Fantastic Four, now the Fantastic Five. Then, he realizes there's a villain hunting spider people across the multiverse. Otto eventually arrives to India, where he finds a Hindi version of Spider-Man battling Morlun. Otto manages to save him and recruits him into his army, where he already assembled a group of Spider-Men. Otto defeats one of the spider killers named Karn with his spider bots. Karn replies that it's simply hunting all the spiders, which is what his species does. He also reveals that his family will be no match for them, since his weapon will eventually become ineffective. In the end, Superior Spider-Man becomes team leader to try and stop these killers from spreading their mission across the Spider-Verse. Of course, he was in Edge of Spider-Verse issue 1, and he gathers some members of the Spideyverse together, as we already know, so it's just a one-page appearance thing. Next, he was in Amazing Spider-Man 2014, issues 10 and 11, January and February 2015. Superior Spider-Man tries to lead the Spider-Verse team, making a, quote, superior Spider team. His own team meets up with a second Spider-Man team, which included Peter Parker from Earth 616. When informed of this existence of the Spider Tunnels by Ezekiel Sims, Otto dismissed the notion of supernatural beings as a backward superstition. When Demios attacked, drawn to the presence of the Other and the Bride, 2 powerful spider totems, Otto engaged in combat with the Demios and killed him. That turned out to be a clone, and the spiders were forced to split up and flee when the Demios returned with reinforcements, killing several members of Otto's team. Afterwards, Otto declared that they were at war with the Inheritors and that he was now the leader of the spiders. No questions asked. Peter Parker, Earth 616, is horrified to see Ock as Superior Spider-Man and questions his leadership and knocks him out. And this was also the moment where Superior Spider-Man, where Otto Octavius realized that he is destined to die in the future. Yep, he was in Spider-Verse issues 1 and 2. Well, a version of him. In issue 1, we see a Dr. Octopus on Earth 803. His tentacles were steam-powered. They were operated by a control box worn on the front. The box itself was uninstalled radiation that would have killed him within a year had Lady Spider and Spider-Man hadn't confiscated the tentacles. Issue 2 had Superior Spider-Man make an Easter egg appearance in here. Then Amazing Spider-Man 2014 issues 12 to 15, March to April 2015. Superior Spider-Man here travels to Earth 3145, where they found that this reality Spider-Man is Ben Parker. Otto was aghast that Earth-3145's Dr. Octopus was responsible for the desolation of that world, and when Peter made a comment regarding his holographic assistant's resemblance to Anna Maria, Otto realized that Peter was from later in Earth-616 timeline, and therefore that he does lose everything. Later, he convinces Ben Parker, Spider-Man, to suit up one more time for a fight. During the final battle, Otto proclaimed that he had found a superior solution that Peter and the other spiders were too blind and gutless to see, slitting the Master Weaver's throat to Moreland's and Peter's mutual horror seeing this happen. Scarlet Spiders issue 3 came next. It was a version of Dr. Octopus's most recent death fighting Spider-Man. Then, the cartoon show Ultimate Spider-Man had episodes 61 and 63 come out on March 5th and 19th, 2015. They were called Spider-Verse Parts 1 and 3. In Part 61, it's a small thing, but in Episode 63, a version of Dr. Octopus from medieval times fights Spider-Man and Spider-Knight. On April 30th, 2015, Dr. Octopus was in the game Marvel Future Fight. He's as a villain in here. Wow, yeah, next for Doc Ock was that he was in the 250th issue of Deadpool on Deadpool 2012 issue 45, the last issue of Deadpool Volume 5, in June 2015. He's here as an Easter egg. The same month came Spider-Verse Volume 2, issue 2. It's a small appearance, with Doc Ock being in Earth's 22191's version of the Sinister Six. Ultimate Spider-Man episode 68 came next on July 21st, 2015, titled Ant-Man. Here, nanobots have taken control of Nick Fury from the inside to release Doc Ock from prison, while Spidey and Ant-Man save Fury and Nova defeats Doc Ock, returning him to his cell. Ultimate Spider-Man episodes 75 to 78 came out next on October 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th in 2015, the Contest of Champions episodes. He was really in just parts 1 and 3, for a cameo, but in parts 2 and 4, episodes 76 and 78, he was in a very big role. Well, not really that big, but in episode 76, he fights Spider-Man and takes Aunt May hostage, but Aunt May headbutts him, and he lets her go, and Spider-Man beats Dr. Otto Octavius. In part 4, he fights Spider-Man and the Collector, but gets blasted down after, a very long, drawn-out battle. He was then in Ultimate Spider-Man Infinite comic issues 15 and 18. In issue 15, Doc Ock's an Easter egg, and it's just like the comic cover, where everyone is laughing at the thought of Spider-Man being a villain. And same thing with issue 18, though the picture is with Spider-Man thinking of him and his team fighting rogues in the past. He was in MODOK Assassin issues 1, 3, and 4, October 2015. MODOK interferes with a sanctioned hit on Otto Octavius by Bullseye, killing both the would-be assassin and his target in order to recover stolen AIM technology. Then his tentacles appear in cameos afterwards. Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, issues 2 and 3. In this story, Dr. Octopus was one of the old enemies of Spider-Man when the Regent took over Regency. Octavius became a member of the Sinister Six. Tracking Spider-Man down to the Tinkerer's shop, Otto was severely beaten by the hero. His fellow members relieved him of his duty. Web Warriors issue 1, coming out November 2015. We see Dr. Octopus from Earth, the cartoon of 1967's Spider-Man universe, show up and get webbed up. 6 months later, December 2015, Ock was in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, issue 1. At the end of the story, we see that the living brain contains a copy of the consciousness of Otto Octavius. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, Issue 5 is Otto/the Living Brain's next appearance. So, Octavius' consciousness, still in the brain, expresses anger over being forced to act like their lackey. What happened was during the Spider-Verse event and Otto learning that he was destined to die, he made a conscious copy of himself and put it inside a living brain on sleep mode for 100 days. Now, Otto is back. Sorta. February 2016, Ock was in a new series, Spidey, issue 1. In this flashback reworking of Spider-Man's early days, Dr. Octopus breaks into Oscorp Tower, but was confronted by Spider-Man and forced to flee. We see Spidey meeting Dr. Octopus here for the first time, and yeah, Ock's tentacles are super long and quick in this comic. Okay, so next I will go through Dr. Octopus and the Ultimate Spider-Man Season 4, specifically for episodes 79 through episode 86, premiering episodes 79 and 80 on February 21st, and the next 6 episodes premiering once a week until April 3rd, 2016. The episodes are titled Hydra Attacks Parts 1 and 2, Miles from Home, Iron Vulture, Lizards, Double Agent Venom, Beached, and Anti-Venom. At the start of episode 79, the season 4 premiere, with the season being titled Ultimate Spider-Man vs. the Sinister Six, has Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Agent Venom, and Iron Spider capture Dr. Octopus. He gets taken onto the Tricarrier and uses an Octobot to take over the villain Swarm, who in the show is made up of little spider robots, not bees. So the robots/nanobots take over the Tricarrier, turning it into a Hydra machine/logo, and it gives Dr. Octopus a new costume with Hydra's symbol on it, and making him look a lot more like he did during Dan Slott's run on The Amazing Spider-Man. Doc Ock tries to turn Norman Osborn into a Goblin again, so the Goblin can join his new Sinister Six, but Norman's immune now, and Spider-Man/Kane, Scarlet Spider, throw him out of Oscorp, saving Harry Osborn. Dr. Octopus and Kraven the Hunter leave together to build up a new Sinister Six. The next episode had Ock work with Baron Mordo to bring the Ultimate Green Goblin from Miles Morales' world to join him in his Sinister Six, but the plan fails. Then, next episode called Iron Vulture, Otto sends the Vulture after Norman again, and Vulture's there to raid Oscorp in order to access the computers, so that Vulture can learn more about his past. Spider-Man and Miles help Norman Osborn in the Iron Patriot armor fight Dr. Octopus and Vulture. In the end, Vulture turns against Ock, but Otto's nano-Octobots take over Vulture's armor, turning it red, looking more like the fourth Vulture. Now Vulture is more like a fully controlled animal by Ock, and the two villains get away. In the next episode, Ock barely appears, but he has the Rhino betray everyone and kidnap Agent Venom. Then for episode 84, Dr. Octopus and Arnim Zola work to separate the Venom symbiote from Flash Thompson, for a while at least. Ock then puts the symbiote on Kraven to hunt the spiders who rescued Flash Thompson. In the episode Beached, Iron Spider stumbles upon a secret laboratory where Dr. Octopus has captured Sandman and cloned him so that he can find the, quote, ultimate Sandman that will join the Sinister Six. Sandman is rescued and Dr. Octopus escapes. The next episode, Dr. Octopus creates Anti-Venom symbiote and has it bond to Harry Osborn, now the Hero Patriot. Okay, back to the comics in Web Warriors issue 4. In this story, the Web Warriors go to a new world and meet an Octavius was a member of the Young Avengers. One of her greatest foes was Spider-Woman. One day, an army of Electros broke into her home and threatened her parents, forcing Octavia to go with them. They took her captive and had her and the Dr. Octopi study the web of life and destiny. The Web Warriors helped her escape, and she then joined them, and her lab and tens of other Dr. Octopus-like people with metal harnesses and 4 extra arms appear in this story and fight the sort of universe-invading spider people. And then Otto was in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, Issues 9 through 11. In main continuity, Otto watches his ex, Anna Maria, working at Parker Industries. Also, Otto, while working for Peter Parker, is plotting against him and his company whenever he has the chance. Another version of Dr. Octopus was in Spider-Woman Volume 6, Issue 6. Otto works for an organization called Silk and tries to capture the Spider-Girls. He uses his pet octopus to fight people. He was in Ultimate Spider-Man episodes 88 and 89, coming out on June 12th and 19th, 2016. It was a 2-part story called The New Sinister Six. Dr. Octopus completes his Sinister Six upon assembling Kraven the Hunter, Rhino, Hydro-Man, Electro, and Ultimate Green Goblin, where they attack the Triskelion. Even when most of the Sinister Six is defeated by the S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy students, Spider-Man is caught off guard. When it turns out Rhino was not the mole, Doc Ock just used Rhino to break free, and that there is a 7th member of Dr. Octopus's group that Spider-Man least suspects, the Scarlet Spider. Dr. Octopus knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. He sends Scarlet Spider to claim a key that Spider-Man hid at Aunt May's house. Doc Ock also turns Hydra Island into an octopus island with his nanotechnology while entrapping Arnim Zola. But by the end of the episode, Octopus Island crash lands. Next came Ultimate Spider-Man episodes 91 and 92 on July 3rd and July 10th, 2016. They were titled The Symbiote Saga Parts 1 and 2. Doc Ock transforms Dr. Michael Morbius into a living vampire, and Ock himself gets infected with the Carnage symbiote, but by the end he goes back to normal and escapes the heroes. Silk Volume 2, Issues 7 and 8. Otto appears in here as a scientist again helping Silk. Ultimate Spider-Man episodes 95 came out on September 3rd, 2016. It was called Return to the Spider-Verse Part 2. Spider-Man and Kid Arachnid arrive in Wild West dimension where they meet, or Kid Arachnid Miles Morales Spider-Man, okay, where they meet this spider-themed cowboy web-slinger who lost his Uncle Ben, who was a sheriff when Doc Ock Holiday took over the town. Now they help Web-Slinger build up the courage to fight corrupt Sheriff Doc Ock Holiday and his deputy, the Phantom Rider. Alright, Dr. Octopus was also in Ultimate Spider-Man episodes 99 and the episode 100 on October 8th and October 15th, 2016. The episodes were called The Spider Slayers Parts 1 and 2. Spider-Man, Dr. Octopus, and Scarlet Spider fight a Delta-9 Synthzoids, a Spider Slayer team of Spider-Man Synthoid hybrids. Dr. Octopus uses another nanotechnology upgrade that not only changes him to another appearance, but also improves his whole body completely, so he looks like classic Dr. Octopus, a lot more like the Spider-Man Taz design. He was in Spidey issues 8 and 9. At the end of issue 8, after Spider-Man stops him, Electro gets busted out of a police car by Dr. Octopus and his 4 other teammates, making this the classic Sinister Six. In issue 9, Kraven loses a fight with the Web-Slinger, though Doc Ock was recording and studying Spider-Man's moves when this happened. Fall 2016, Doc Ock was in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, Issue 20. Back in his emergency, Octobot, Otto decides to find his corpse in order to obtain the genetic material to be able to clone a new body. However, he discovers that his coffin has been stolen. At New U, they clone Otto, but since when his body died, Peter's mind was inside. The body is cloned with a replica of the latter inside. Otto reintroduces himself into his head and confronts the duplicate. Otto manages to win and come back to life. However, the Octobot runs out of energy and the digital Anna Maria deactivates. Otto realizes that the pills the Jackal gives to his clones are only a temporary remedy, as he cannot find a permanent way to stop the clones from melting and dying. Otto therefore agrees to work with the Jackal. Next, Dr. Octopus was in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon finale, which were episodes 103 and 104, both releasing on January 7th, 2017. They were titled Graduation Day. Dr. Octopus threatens to hurt Aunt May if Peter Parker ever puts on the Spider-Man costume again, after rounding up Kraven the Hunter, the Rhino, the Scorpion, and the Vulture, as well as turning the villain Crossbones into a lizard. Dr. Octopus allows himself to be incarcerated in the Triskelion security brig by Spider-Man's team. Dr. Octopus and his new Sinister Six break free as he ensnares Aunt May. Spider-Man reluctantly injects himself with the serum to cure him of his powers in order to keep Aunt May safe. Dr. Octopus then takes control of the Triskelion. He then uses an octopus formula that turns himself into a mindless giant octopus-like creature. Using the serum, Spider-Man turns Dr. Octopus back to normal, who tells Spider-Man that even he doesn't know how to get rid of the contracting force field about to crush all of S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy graduates. Dr. Octopus cooperates with Spider-Man, though, to deactivate the force field. Afterwards, Dr. Octopus is taken away by Iron Man. Doc Ock was then in Spidey issues 11 and 12. Issue 11 has Doc Ock forcing the Scorpion to fight Spider-Man. Then, in issue 12, the Sinister Six finally go out all together to try and kill the Webhead. But Spidey easily beats them all in one move, hanging Ock by his own face with his tentacles. Then Dr. Octopus was in the Clone Conspiracy issues 1 through 5. After coming back from the grave, Dr. Octopus fights Spider-Man. And yeah, that was really it. I mean, obviously the two get away, and we leave Doc Ock to just be by himself at the end of it all. He was in Silk issue 15. Dr. Octopus appears at the very end, about to do an experiment on a character named Hector. Spider-Gwen volume 2 issue 16. Otto is here again, still working for Silk. Miles Morales saves Spider-Gwen from him, though. Then the cartoon show Marvel's Spider-Man premiered with episode 3 coming out August 19th, 2017. It was titled Horizon High Part 2. It was the first appearance of Dr. Octopus in the show with Ock. The only thing that happens in here is Peter meets the prodigy student / class advisor, Otto Octavius. Otto is 19 years old and one of Peter's teachers in the show. He was in the game Marvel Contest of Champions on August 17th, 2017. He is a playable character in the mobile game. He was also in Marvel's Spider-Man episodes 5 and 9 on September 16th, 2017. They were titled A Day in the Life and Stark Expo. Here he's in small cameos. Ock just is here in little cameo appearances, of course. He was then in Marvel Superhero Adventures episode 3 on October 27th, 2017. Miles Morales sneaks up behind Ock and electroshocks him, causing his tentacles to spaz out and wrap himself up. Next up is the video game LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2, where Dr. Octopus is a boss and a playable character. The game released on November 14th, 2017. Dr. Octopus is the final boss fight in the second level of the game, where you fight him in a Sinister 5. He is in a giant Octobot and fights Spider-Man, White Tiger, and Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. After the level, you unlock him as a playable character. He was then in the cartoon show again, Marvel's Spider-Man episodes 16 and 19 on January 21st and January 28th, 2018. The 4-part storyline was just titled The Rise of Doc Ock. In the 4-part story, Miss Crimson Dynamo attacks Horizon Labs at the start of it to steal one of Otto's projects. Protecting him, the experiment goes off and fuses Otto's mechanical arms to his body. After Peter visits him in the hospital, Otto is inspired to be a hero and fights Miss Crimson Dynamo. In episode 17, Otto and Peter and Miles Spider-Man face the Lizard. Kirk Connors is turned into the Lizard by Osborn to attack Otto. Otto develops a cure apparently and injects the Lizard with it. Instead, the serum turns Lizard into a giant Godzilla lizard. Because of this mess up, Otto gets fired from Horizon Labs and goes to work for Oscorp, all part of Norman's plan secretly. The next episode takes place at Osborn Academy, where we are introduced to Ollie Osnick, a guy who admires Otto Octavius. He even has his own mechanical arms. Rhino and Jackal attack the place, and Norman has used Otto's technology to create Autobots for security, making Otto mad. In the next episode, Norman goes after the Jackal with his Osborn Commandos, which is composed of himself, Otto Octavius, Ollie, the Steel Spider, that's Ollie's name, Rhino, and the Spider Slayer. Otto then betrays Norman, taking control of the 4 other supervillains, calling themselves the Sinister Five, and leaving Osborn for dead in a burning up lab. He was then in Marvel's Spider-Man episodes 25 and 26 on February 18th, 2018, The Hobgoblin Parts 1 and 2. The plot of Otto Octavius create the Sinister Six, composed of the Rhino, Vulture, Steel Spider, the Spider Slayer, Dr. Octopus, and Spider-Man himself. Spidey is being controlled by Otto, and Hobgoblin saves him and stops Ock. He was in Marvel Spider-Man episodes 28 and 29, released on June 18th and June 25th, 2018. They would call Take Two in between Ock and a hard place. Spider-Man discovers there is a female Dr. Octopus who plans to obtain some crystals. When Spider-Man and Miles find Octavius with the police officer, he tells the police officer that the woman is Carolyn Trainer, who was in the cell next to him back when he was incarcerated at the prison that's called the Cellar. Ock escapes during the fight between him, Spider-Man, and her. But Carolyn and Spidey eventually go back and defeat Doc Ock and send him into a coma. He was then in Marvel Superhero Adventure Spider-Man is stolen vibranium. Ock was here with his Autobots committing a crime, and he is stopped. Now, Dr. Octopus came back in Earth 616 after all of that, in the legendary Amazing Spider-Man issue 800. Or I should say, came back to form in a way. Reinventing himself and calling himself the Superior Octopus with a brand new costume, he crashes into Aunt May's apartment and saves her from a carnage-infected Normie Osborn who was attacking her. After the fight, Aunt May cradles a badly wounded Superior Octopus who had taken the brunt of the attack that had been meant for her. May asks Otto why he risked his life to save her, and he responds that, despite all the evil he's done, he never stopped loving her since the day they first met. Then came the Marvel Spider-Man episodes 34, 37, 38, and 39 on July 30th, August 6th, and August 13th, 2018. It was titled Bring on the Bad Guys Part 1, Part 4, and Brain Drain Parts 1 and 2. Dr. Octopus was revealed to be the mastermind that put a bounty on Spider-Man and actually survived the previous battle between him, Spidey, and Carolyn Trainer. Or like he's awake, he's back in action. He was trapped in the living brain, an invention by Miles Morales. Dr. Octopus captures a weakened Spider-Man and switches minds with him, leaving Spider-Man trapped in the living brain for a while Dr. Octopus inhabits Spider-Man's body. But we don't get the resolution to that until the next episodes. So next up is the character's appearance in the video game simply titled Marvel's Spider-Man on September 7th, 2018. Ock was voiced by William Salyers in the game. Anyway, Peter Parker works for Otto Octavius at Octavius Industries, a little space in the building. They are working on making artificial limbs to help people. Otto, in fact, makes the new white symbol Spider-Man costume in the game. One day, Norman Osborn shuts his lab down and pulls funding. About to lose everything, it's revealed that Otto and Norman were friends in school and created Oscorp together. Otto left, not agreeing with Norman's unethical behavior. Otto also reveals that his body is slowly deteriorating and he needs his project to succeed to keep moving. Octavius pushes on with his work and wears 4 giant mechanical arms, controlling them with his mind, wanting to reveal what he has done to the world, proclaiming that he finally doesn't feel like a failure. Pete notices that the arm-controlling device is messing with his mind, changing his emotional state, etc., so Otto promises to go back to normal and sends Peter home, but secretly, he plans revenge on Norman Osborn. It's a video game, so yeah, of course there's a whole bunch of action. Doc Ock has planned a breakout at the raft and has teamed up with Electro, Vulture, Rhino, Scorpion, and Mr. Negative, making the Sinister Six. Offering a reward for helping him for every member, Ock also releases a deadly virus across the city named Devil's Breath, forcing the city to a halt. Eventually, Doc Ock raids Oscorp and kidnaps Norman Osborn and the Devil's Breath cure. Peter, making a new anti-Ock suit, follows Dr. Octopus down to Oscorp, saves Norman Osborn, and defeats Dr. Octopus, where it's revealed that Octavius knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man. They crash through the building, and Otto gets put in the raft without his metal arms, keeping Peter's secret identity to himself. He was in What If? Spider-Man Volume 2, Issue 1. The issue has a short retelling of the Doc Ock fight from Amazing Spider-Man Issue 32, except with Flash Thompson as Spider-Man. He was also in What If? The Punisher Issue 1. There's a moment that shows Punisher Spider-Man taking down Doc Ock. Marvel Superhero Adventures Season 2 Episode 2 premiered on October 26, 2018. It was titled Dr. Octopus's Garden. Ock has been stealing stuff from a museum. All this stuff has something to do with the color green. He returns to the museum, so Spider-Man and Ghost Spider, aka Spider-Gwen, whip him up. He was in Spider-Man Enter the Spider-Verse Issue 1. Dr. Octopus used a special radiation frequency to exact mind control over all of his assailants, as well as the Sinister Six of Earth-177. The villain Gog, who he did mind control, but it broke, Gog gets revenge on Dr. Octopus beating him up. He was in Spectacular Spider-Man issue 310. It's a one-page cameo. A version of Dr. Octopus was in the animated movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse on December 12, 2018. This Dr. Octopus is a female, voiced by Catherine Hahn. She is an evil scientist, the CEO of Alchemax, and a former friend of Peter Parker's Aunt May in Miles Morales' universe. She works for the Kingpin, intending to help him use the Super Collider to bring back alternate versions of Kingpin's deceased wife and son. She tries to capture Peter B. Parker's Spider-Man, but Peter and Miles' Spider-Man escape. Doc Ock here then goes to Aunt May's house and with other rogues attacks the Spider-Verse heroes in this movie. In the final fight, Dr. Octopus battles Miles' Spider-Man and Spider-Gwen, but the Super Collider effects pulls things, and a result is it causes a truck to run over this Dr. Octopus. To the Spider Heroes' horror, it's assumed she was knocked into another dimension. We also learned that Peter B. Parker and Spider-Gwen had their own versions of Dr. Octopus they fought. Then came the Superior Octopus Issue 1. It opens with Otto as the Superior Octopus stopping an armored car robbery. How is he alive now? Well, combining the Jackals and this character called Genex's cloning technology, or not company, or not character, company Genex's cloning technology, Otto created a set of duplicate bodies he could upload his consciousness into should his current body be killed. And he fights Arnim Zola as well in the story. And now, let's talk about Otto in Spider-Geddon issues 0 through 5. In issue 0, Superior Spider-Man teams up with Marvel's Spider-Man 2018, Spider-Man, and they defeat the villain Tarantula. After this, Superior Spider-Man recruits Marvel's Spider-Man to his Spider-Verse team. The Web Warriors and Ultimate Spider-Man attacked Otto's lab later to destroy his cloned bodies, fearing that the villains, the Inheritors, could use them to escape their prison. Otto fought them, smugly stating that was impossible and that they should have killed the Inheritors like he'd suggested in the first place. The Web Warriors' fears were confirmed when Otto's system was confirmed to have been hijacked by Genex, who created new bodies for himself. Oh, so Genex is a real character. Wow, I'm not good at writing this, am I? Sorry. This is almost done with the video. He created new bodies for Moreland and Verna. Otto was nearly consumed by Genex, who tossed him aside when he realized he wasn't a pure spider totem. Octavia Otto, a female counterpart of Otto from another Earth, programmed Otto's lab to explode in order to destroy the cloning tubes. With his costume damaged, Otto returned to his lab with Octavia and Spider-Punk and changed to a replica of the second version of the Superior Spider-Man suit. Returning to his Superior Spider-Man identity, Otto recruited Kane, presuming that he still possessed the other, who informed the former that he did not. Kane suggested they also recruit Ben Reilly, but Otto refused. That was really all with Otto Octavius in the story. Next up was the new Superior Spider-Man series with issues 1 through 3. Otto Octavius has again become the Superior Spider-Man, and the story opens with him stopping Stiltman while he's on his way to give a speech as a made-up professor identity he has. The next day, he was confronted at Horizon by Anna Maria, who had deduced that he was actually Otto Octavius and not really Elliot Tolliver. She was going to turn him over to the police, but changed her mind when T-Rex the Tamer attacked San Francisco. Superior Spider-Man heads there and fights a losing battle against the villain, until Anna Maria builds a device to transfer some cosmic power from T-Rex to Superior Spider-Man. Spider-Man re-entered the battle infused with cosmic energy, but T-Rex was still more skilled in its use. The former Herald was eventually defeated when Otto and Anna's worked together to reprogram T-Rex's axe to backfire on the villain. After the battle, Anna agreed to allow Otto to continue his hero career, but only if she were his chaperone. He was in Marvel's Superior Adventures, Spider-Man Web of Intrigue, issue 1. He's just another bad guy here. Now here's Superior Spider-Man Volume 2, issues 4 through 6. After the fight, Spider-Man began to start helping the people out of the wreckage in San Francisco. Throughout the course of the day, he began to realize the value of civilians through his different interactions. Afterwards, he was invited on a date by the character Emma Hernandez, and he agreed to one. Otto's day with Emma went well until he revealed his true identity, which caused her to flee from the apartment. He followed her as Spider-Man, and they were confronted by police officers possessed by the villain Master Panomium's demons, and Emma was possessed as well. Otto contacted Doctor Strange for aid, who initially attacked him before being shown the demonic infestation. By combining their efforts, they were able to track down and confront Master Pandemonium. The pair of doctors ended up defeating Pandemonium by swapping equipment, but Strange refused to wipe Emma's memory from him afterwards, for Otto afterwards. However, Anna Maria helped him convince Emma to keep his identity a secret because he had saved her. Dr. Octopus was then in another video game, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, released on July 19th, 2019. Doc Ock was one of the many prisoners who escaped from the raft during a mass breakout, but he was subdued by the heroes before he could lower its force field. Doc Ock was voiced by William Sailors, again, the same one from the Marvel Spider-Man 2018 game. There's also a challenge called Synergy Trial Defeat Dr. Octopus S-Rank. He was in Superior Spider-Man Volume 2, issues 7 through 9. Not much happens, except that Superior Spider-Man teams up with the West Coast Avengers to try and stop this War of the Realms at the source, but fails, going back to San Francisco to protect civilians. Alrighty, now we are back to the Spider-Man 2017 cartoon. For Otto, it's his numerous appearances. His last appearances in the cartoon show, Marvel's Spider-Man. He was in episodes 41 all the way through episode 52, premiering one episode every week from September 15th, 2019 to December 1st, 2019. That's why I wanted to talk about it all the way until now. Now that Otto's mind is in Peter Parker's body, he now has the power to bring New York to its knees. He breaks Silver Sable out of prison and lets Hammerhead escape too, but memories of Uncle Ben cause Otto to question his motivation and decides to protect innocents instead of harm them, even after his bad childhood, like having a father who always belittled his science interests or the school bully, forcing Otto to let him copy. After Otto stops Sable in her Octobot, Otto makes a new costume and calls himself the Superior Spider-Man and takes Hammerhead back to jail. Later, the Sand Girl tries to unite the gangs together to stop him, but thanks to Miles Morales' Spider-Man, Otto Spider-Man breaks out of Sand Girl's trap and turns her into glass, almost shatters her as glass too. This J. Jonah Jameson approves of Spider-Man now as well. The Avengers question Spider-Man about his behavior change since he's gotten more brutal and serious. Spider-Man decides to fight them but gets knocked out, and then goes to track down AIM when he wakes up in the Avengers Quinjet with the other heroes. And it's revealed that the criminal organization AIM has created MODOK, but SS, by using the Avengers, defeats him. When he gets back to Horizon, he gets bothered about tuition and quits the school, going back to Midtown High. Otto there meets assistant chemistry teacher Anna Maria Morconi, who enlists him in a sponsorship proposal to Alchemax so that it can be equal at Horizon High. When Cloak and Dagger assault Midtown High in an attempt to exact vengeance on Alchemax along with Midtown's benefactor Tobias Stone, Superior Spider-Man must protect the school and take the duo down. Next, the Venom symbiote is back, and it's intent on making Spider-Man suffer for rejecting him as his host from the previous year. But when the symbiote discovers Octavius' body swap, Venom uses Anna Maria as a bargaining chip to force Octavius to reunite Peter's consciousness with his body. Having grown close to Anna Maria, Octavius must choose whether to restore real Spider-Man to his former self or lose his only friend. And of course, Otto does ultimately the right thing. For the next few episodes, Otto here appears in flashbacks and in presence, since after giving Peter his body back, Ock went into a coma until the end of episode 47. Otto and Anna Maria help Spider-Man by freeing Cloak and Dagger as redemption for his past crime. Spider-Man and Otto work to develop a way to stop the rogue named Slide as well. With most of the Spider team defeated during the giant Goblins event, only Spider-Man, Hobgoblin, and Dr. Octopus are left to stop the Goblin King from unleashing a new kind of ruin upon New York, leading to a showdown at Horizon High and Dr. Octopus making the ultimate sacrifice. Okay, then came Marvel Comics 2019, issue 1000. In this issue, Otto is seen taking a doctor call from Spider-Man, not believing anything Spidey's saying about how he has spider sense and can stick to walls. It's kind of a funny scene. He was then in Superior Spider-Man Volume 2, issues 10 through 12. Targeted by the Norman Osborn Spider-Man of Earth 44145, who sought to destroy Otto's life in revenge for having insulted him during the Second Totem War. Otto was approached by Mephisto, who offered him a way to defeat Norman. Despite Anna Maria begging him not to throw away the good life and the good inside himself, Otto accepted Mephisto's bargain and was restored to his original body and state of mind from before he ever mind-swapped with Peter Parker. A spare clone body was used as a decoy to fool Norman and later buried as Elliot Tulliver. Otto has seemingly lost all of Peter Parker's memories, but retained all of the ones since he was duplicated after the battle against the Inheritors. For instance, though Otto did not remember Peter's identity or the events from the first time he was the Superior Spider-Man, he remembered his alliance with the Jackal through the War of the Realms, and people such as Anna Maria from the New You crisis to the present. This also meant that while he remembered being a hero, he now associated more with villainy, just as he did before the initial mind swap. The deal also included restoring Otto's body to perfect shape, not only fixing the damage of all fights as Octopus, but also the brain damage he suffered while becoming Dr. Octopus, if any. This suggested that Mephisto was convinced the brain damage was a false excuse, and Otto would return to criminal behavior regardless. And in doing that, Otto easily defeats Norman Osborn here, from a different Earth. Alright, now we can talk Superior Spider-Man, Symbiote Spider-Man, Alien Reality, Issue 3. Doc Ock appears here robbing a bank vault. Symbiote Spidey stops him with help by an illusion. Dr. Octopus was then a character in the Marvel Duel game coming out July 31st, 2020. A version of Otto, or at least his corpse, was seen in the comic Avengers of the Wastelands, Issue 3. Dr. Octopus then had a small role in the video game Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, the sequel, half-sequel, spin-off to the 2018 Marvel Spider-Man game. Releasing on November 12, 2020, Peter Parker and his mentor, Otto Octavius, unknowingly bumped into Miles at an Oscorp Industries Science Expo, and the two talk about controlling robotics with their minds. Spider-Man Spider's Shadow, Issue 2. In the story, Jameson contacts Otto Octavius and the Sinister Six to destroy a crazed symbiote Spider-Man, but Eddie Brock sneaks into Otto's base and knocks him out. And then Otto was at the very end of The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, Issue 64. Dr. Octopus removes a coffin from its grave and is confused to find it empty, hoping it would lead to filling in his memory gaps. However, the new villain Kindred is ecstatic that he did, now ready to invite his, quote, final guests. Kindred's centipede minion embeds itself into Otto's ear to force him into unconsciousness. Meet Spidey and His Amazing Friends, Episode 2 premiered on August 6th, 2021. This show had the introduction of Carolyn Trainer Dr. Octopus into the series, and she was like the Doc Ock villain for the show. Nothing special at all happened with her, so I won't go through all 23 of her appearances. Sorry. Giant Size Amazing Spider-Man Chameleon Conspiracy. We see at the end of the story that Doc Ock is putting together the Sinister Six. He next appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, Issues 67 to 72. Part of this happened before the Chameleon Conspiracy and during the Sinister War. Basically, Doc Ock is tasked to put together a new Sinister Six, and in return, he'll get everything he wants. And it also shows a little of Spider-Man fighting Dr. Octopus during the Sinister War event. Speaking of that, next, he was, of course, in the 4-issue miniseries, Sinister War. The Sinister Six retrieved their final member Mysterio from the premiere of a film he had directed under a false identity. The team briefly clashed with the Savage Six, who had also intercepted the premiere to enact revenge on Mysterio. Spider-Man became involved in the fray, and Octavius knocked him down to deliver him to Kindred. Realizing that Kindred wouldn't give him the answers he sought, Otto used Black Ant's helmet signal to kill the centipedes that Kindred was using to control him and all the other villains during the fight, leaving all of them unconscious and saving Spider-Man. The hero thanked him, but Otto claimed that he was just getting revenge on Kindred for not going through with their agreement before leaving. Next up is the second, maybe third if you count the Easter egg of Ock Arms in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, live-action movie appearance of Dr. Octopus, played by the same actor, Alfred Molina, from Spider-Man 2. It released on December 17th, 2021. Of course, the movie is called Spider-Man No Way Home. In the movie, a Doctor Strange spell gets messed up and brings people who knew Spider-Man's secret identity to their universe. One of them is Dr. Octopus from the movie Spider-Man 2. Upon arriving in the other universe, Octavius was under the control of his mechanical arms, and the last thing he remembered was holding Spider-Man by the throat. With nothing else to ground him in this new reality, Dr. Octopus tried to find his fusion reactor until he arrived at the Alexander Hamilton Bridge. Doc Ock sees Spider-Man, and believing this to be his Spider-Man, they fight. He grabs MCU Spider-Man, who is wearing the Iron Spider suit, but Spidey's nanotech from his costume crawls onto Ock's arms, and now Spider-Man can control him, leading to Doc Ock being incapacitated on the bridge with him until a new figure shows up. Otto recognizes him as the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, but then a Doctor Strange spell casts him back to the Sanctum Sanctorum, with Ock being placed in a cell. Later, all the villains learn of their fates, how Dr. Octopus dies in the river alongside his fusion reactor, and Spider-Man's only plan to save them all is to cure the villains before returning them to their proper universes. Spider-Man makes a cure for Doc Ock, removing the AI interference always talking to him, and he returns to normal, being able to fully control his mechanical arms, and offers to help Spider-Man cure the other villains. In the final fight, Doc Ock surprise jumps Electro and forcibly cures him, and he and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man leave on good terms. Next, he was in The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, Issue 80 and Issue 80.1, February 2022. While reuniting with and helping May Parker find a cure for Peter to awaken him from his coma, they come across a company called Infinite Solutions. This intrigues Otto, and upon further investigation, he discovers it is a shell company for the Beyond Corporation, which is utilizing Parker Industries' technology, his technology. Otto reacts with smugly, saying that he'll show Beyond who's superior. Next, he was in the 6-issue miniseries Devil's Reign and the 3-issue miniseries Devil's Reign Superior 4. In Devil's Reign, Otto started working for the Kingpin while secretly having his own ulterior motives. After having Reed Richards and Sue Storm in prison, Fisk gave the Baxter Building to Otto. Otto helped Fisk by creating a device that would use the imprisoned Purple Man to coerce people within New York to vote for him, so that Wilson would win the elections again. Otto used the multiversal technology from Reed's lab to summon 3 versions of himself from another universes, creating an unstoppable group. Ock tried to campaign against Fisk in his mayoral race by having the Chameleon pose as Tony Stark and win the elections, but he lost. Otto then left Fisk in his mayor seat and just wanted to survey the city with his anti-crime drones. During the Superior Force story, Otto and his variants decided to wage war against any other version of themselves from the multiverse in order to create a destructive wave across the multiverse in hopes that it would branch and create dozens of new Ock variants, starting at Earth 2902, where they killed Spider-Ock, with Otto absorbing his entire intellect, making his own mind grow. The latter, Otto, and his Man-Thing variant rescued the Superior Four, and together they defeated Supreme Ock. Then came The Amazing Spider-Man 2018, issues 84 and 85. At the Beyond site, Doc Ock makes his way through the security measures to finally reach an item holding all of Beyond's secrets, promising to enact revenge on the company for stealing his work. Spider-Man arrives and places a device on Otto Octavius that causes his mechanical arms to deactivate. Undeterred, Doc Ock removes his suit and arms to make his way to the device he wanted, and triggers a security system to target Spider-Man. Taking his leave, Doc Ock advises the out-cold Spider-Man that Beyond hired someone more qualified by his return. Doc Ock's intent now is to take back the Spider-Man tech he previously made. Spider-Man gets to Doc Ock, and there's a room with Doc Ock and, counter-action devices. With an EM rifle and the spinneret capture harness, Ben strikes Doc Ock and voices how he's worked hard to show he's earned everything he has. When Doc Ock detaches his mechanical arms, Ben isn't fooled and tosses them to the wall before they detonate, using the massive hole made to slingshot him and Otto onto another roof. With a data drive, Otto found that Beyond selected Ben because he was psychologically compromised and disabled the security functions so everything will read as unopened. Distrusting, Ben slowly finds the details inside compelling as Otto tells him about Beyond's psych profile on him. And should he feel deceived, then Otto welcomes him to fund him again with Beyond's future help, telling Ben to enjoy his quote-unquote win. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6, Issue 1 and Issue 6 in summer 2022. In an undisclosed location, Doc Ock notes how Spider-Man is already broken, and thus a diagram of his destruction is beneath him for now, so Octavius wants to wait until Spider-Man regains joy in his life and rebuilds himself before moving in to take that happiness away. However, there's another in the scene with him who had imprisoned Octavius and demands the very schemes in his mind, as Octavius notes that his mind is too brilliant for the other. Dr. Octopus's tentacles later raid a party Peter is at through the wall. Everyone is surprised at J. Jonah Jameson wearing the tentacle harness attacking Peter. They knock him back out of the building, but the tentacles then save JJJ. The tentacles then immediately drop Jonah and lead Spider-Man into an alleyway, attaching itself to him to write help in the alley wall. Elsewhere, the imprisoned Otto tells his captor that his tentacles have reached Spider-Man, but the synthoid adversary calculated such an outcome and as already knew of the tentacles escaping. Otto grows quietly desperate. Otto's captor is the ultra-living brain who has become a Sinister Six super adaptoid who captured the rest of the original Sinister Six. Spidey and his old enemies team up to stop the robot. Amazing Fantasy issue 1000. It was an Easter egg appearance. Deadpool volume 9 issues 1 through 5. Deadpool has 24 hours to kill Doc Ock if he wants to get in with an assassin, so the two fight. Spider-Gwen Shadow Clones issue 1 May 2023. This introduces a character named Gwen Ock. It's a clone fused with Otto and Gwen's DNA that was mind-controlled to fight Spider-Gwen, but then she decides to work with the hero. Doc Ock was in Fantastic Four Volume 7, Issue 6, cover date of June 2023. We see the hero team easily beat Dr. Octopus. Free Comic Book Day 2023, Spider-Man Venom. Kraven has stolen a device for Dr. Octopus. With the cover date of July 2023, Dr. Octopus appeared in Invincible Iron Man Volume 5, Issue 6. Doc Ock is in a flashback being mind-controlled by Emma Frost to fight Iron Man. And then, Doc Ock's last appearance is the date, with the cover dates of August 2023, The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6, Issues 27 and 28. There is no information really for Issue 28 right now, just that Dr. Octopus will appear in them. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6, Issue 28 just released 5 days before this video was uploaded. The new and improved Dr. Octopus takes his upgraded tentacles for a rampage through Oscorp. And now, can the deadliest Doc Ock ever be stopped? And that was everything about anything about Dr. Octopus up to July 2023. Dr. Octopus has always been one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. I like him more than the Green Goblin, and I still think he's the best Spider-Man movie villain. So that was a huge 3+ hour long video all about this guy. Such a great character to look at for the 30th complete history of video. The only thing I'd say about Doc Ock's future right now is I hope he returns in the PlayStation Spider-Man games up to the point where we get a superior Spider-Man game. One can dream, can't he? I thank you all for watching, and have a great day.